Ghost.
Can you explain in great detail how and why your
No.
Neptune has a magnetic polarity?
Okay, I'll put that on my list. I have no idea. I'll tell you when I don't know something, and I don't know a lot of things.
Do you know anything about the Mothman prophecy?
A little bit. I mean, I read a little bit about it. I guess a lot of people in West Virginia spotted this thing. When was it? Back in the 50s? 1950s?
I'm not sure. I heard it from Miss Ahmad.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. This is the first time I'm being exposed to Mothman. I've heard of Earthworm Jim. I've heard of Tickman. Never heard of Mothman.
Earthworm Jim. Wow, I'm going to write that one down.
That's an
Can
old
you tell us a little bit about Earthworm Jim? Anything?
Well, he's an earthworm that got somehow like captured in a human suit, right? And he gained like superpowers, I guess. There's a video game like he carries a gun and shoots people. It's a whole thing.
Okay, so it's not a real something real that people cited.
No, this is but it is something that has some basis in reality for me.
Okay, okay. I guess I mean Mothman. They think might have been some sort of because they always mention the glowing eyes on Mothman, and they think it might have been like some sort of an owl. You know, if you shine a light at an owl, its eyes will glow. But who knows? A lot of people cited something and they couldn't explain it.
What if it turns out to be Super Predator?
Super Predator?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. He's been gone for a long time.
We say dust.
Well, if you're gonna deal with Super Predator, it's a good thing to get Kryptonite and yeah, cover yourself in mud.
Talk. Big
Ghost,
Man.
do you believe in Bigfoot?
I don't know. Like Ken Hovel says, yeah, my brother had two of them. Ken always said that every times he hears Bigfoot. What do you think, Dustin? Do you?
Uh well, okay. I don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, but I do believe that there's possibility that there's a uh race or species of ape that are very reclusive, that maybe get spotted every once in a while.
What do you think, Big Bad Mama?
um, I don't believe that there's, yeah, I don't believe in Bigfoot in terms of like being in North America or South America. I mean, it's certainly possible, though I don't think so, that, as Dustin said, there's some sort of a race of hominid, not a race, but some sort of a hominid species that's out there and very reclusive. But I think considering the amount that we've explored the Earth at this point, I don't think that that's probable, but it's interesting.
Aiden is in the comment.
Oh, get him on here.
He's
Maybe he
probably
can answer
family.
the polarity on Neptune.
I imagine he would claim that it has something to do with densities of gas and having friction along the surface, but I don't want to speak for him.
You're speaking of like a magnetic polarity like we have on Earth on
Yeah,
Neptune?
Neptune. Well, was it Neptune or was it? It was Saturn and Neptune actually, and
Saturn
I
and
believe
Neptune.
Neptune had a dot on it like Jupiter.
Like a storm? I mean, you mean
Yeah,
like
like a storm dot.
the great red
Yeah,
spot?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
One of the
interesting.
pictures. Yeah, one of the pictures. I believe it was one of the Voyager probes took as it went by
Right.
clearly depicts what looks like a dark spot on the surface.
Hmm. Well, that great red spot's beautiful. If the photographs they've got of it,
Yeah, yeah, it's gorgeous.
I mean, you can tell it's a gaseous type of material. It's not. I mean, it looks like a big hurricane, right? A big eye of a hurricane.
Wow.
But what
That
beneath it is causing that? And I don't know if that's been completely solved yet. Do you know, Dustin?
there's some theories that, like, you know how when you have a sphere and you pass air over the top of it, right? There's
Right.
points, like nodal points along the surface where pressure builds and then dissipates, and supposedly that storm is in the Noid point where all the turbulence finds laminar flow.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks to me like you had different areas flowing in different directions, and where they hit each other, and maybe this is what you're saying, that it spins it into some sort of a cyclonic structure. If you have
Correct.
one's going from whatever west to east, and one is going east to west, and I wonder, is it along the equatorial, like Jupiter's? All the planets are basically in an elliptical, a flat elliptical plane almost. So I was wondering
Yes.
if the great red spot was on, like we have an equator, if it's along Jupiter's equator, where you have kind of different bands of gas going in different directions, and somehow it's opening up a hole there, and so what you're seeing is the gases beneath it, which give it the red color. But I'm not sure. It's interesting though.
Well, when you're dealing with like a gas giant, right? There's no surface for anything.
Right.
I mean, unless you're dealing with densities, right? But even then, I mean, there's nothing that holds that density. If there's a strong enough pressure, it'll push the density to deform, and then you're dealing with all kinds of like turbulence. But like
Yeah.
the other end of the equation is like there's got to be something solid in there, because we're seeing magnetic poles or magnetic polarity, right? As the Kepler space probe was going by it, they measured massive amounts of magnetic polarity.
Right.
So yeah, and there's no real explanation for it. Not really. I mean, that there's a reason I bring up these questions.
Yeah, they're not my strong suit, being, as you know, like geologist means studying the earth. So it's not my strong suit, but I have studied, some of the stuff on the rocky planets. Um, the volcanism on Venus, and even Mars had volcanism in the past. Um, Even the moon had volcanoes at one point.
From bombardments. Yeah, heavy
Yeah, I'm not
bombardments,
sure.
heated.
I know that, yeah, I know that the bombardments did probably break through and release, massive amounts of magma to like fill the craters in and stuff. But I also think there were just straight on volcanoes that were, influenced by the core and stuff. But I'd have to look into that. It's all fascinating stuff. There's a series of videos, and I've watched a couple of them. It's like, what would happen to you if you went on this planet or this moon for 5 seconds? You landed on it and then walked out on it in a spacesuit. And so they have a guy, he lands on Venus. And as you know, Venus is just, super hot. It's like, uh, CO2 and I think methane. And so the guy doesn't get very far before his spacesuit just gives out and he's completely just killed.
Yeah, it's not very hospitable.
No,
Especially dealing with like transfer between like polyurethane and ethane
right,
because they're the same material. Like, not a lot of
right,
protection.
right. I think only one space probe the Russians sent. I think it was in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken, and it was able to land on Venus and snap some photos of the rocky surface before finally either melting or uh, getting squashed by the pressure, the atmospheric pressure, or what have you. But it's a pretty interesting photo that it took.
Well, once it broke the Venusian atmosphere, the winds and the heavy like there's gravel, right? Supposedly, like there's like anywhere from teeny tiny pieces of rock to like gravel sized chunks of rock being blown around all over the place.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
it
Yeah.
didn't. It didn't last too long, unfortunately, but it would have been interesting if they could have sent the probes out, like the rovers, some rovers out, like those ones on Mars. Have you seen the footage that the rovers on? There were three rovers that lasted for I think years on Mars and sent back images, and they were able to stitch these images together like a mosaic. And there's a really good video on the internet about it where they've stitched them together in 4K, so you can really
Yeah.
see. And it looks like that. It looks like the desert that's right east of where I live. Very
Yeah.
barren, very pretty rock formations, and but yeah, totally inhospitable.
oh,
There's a theory that somebody was up there cleaning the rover off because because every time they take a picture, yeah, yeah, because every time they take a picture of it, it would be dirty, and then after a storm, it's all clean again.
Oh, really don't think anyone's been up there.
oh, oh, Big Bad Mama, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was good. Just hung out with some friends.
Oh, that's good. Dustin
How
had
about
good.
you?
Mine's was good too.
Oh, I had a
Good.
really good Thanksgiving. I cooked prime rib, and turkey, and we had a big old dinner.
Nice. Did you cook it?
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh, that's
Sounds
good.
good. Did you have like the basics?
yeah, stuffing, cranberries, the whole 9 yards. We had Jello pie. Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, that's good.
Nice.
Did the
And
great turkey?
hopefully nobody got into it around the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, it was all peaceful, quiet.
That's.
Perfect.
Did the great turkey bring you any presents?
Did the great turkey? Uh, no, not this year.
Oh.
I guess I wasn't good.
Wait till Christmas.
Oh, Big Bad Mama, would you ever like to go into space?
Well, I mean, we're capable now of like what paying $100,000 and the going into space, basically, right? William
Yeah.
Shatner went into space, but not for $100,000. I don't think so.
What if you and Achilles go into space?
You and Achilles. That would be like I don't think that like all of a sudden the shuttle would explode like midair with no explanation.
I'd love to be with him if we could go to such a point that you could just see the curvature of the Earth. It's just like plain. I'd like to be right by his side.
uh, what do you think he would say?
I don't know if he would be. I mean, he's getting this interpretation from I guess certain passages in the Bible. Um, Though a lot of other people don't, a lot of other Christians don't seem to come to the same conclusion about those same passages, but um, he believes the Bible completely literally, I think.
Yeah. And do you think he might be a vampire?
Well, he's up all night and he sleeps during the day, but you know. And then also wasn't his avatar transparent at one point?
I'm not sure.
Well, you couldn't see him. No, he's just a dude like the rest of us.
Do you see that new video I just made of with me my avatar and the scary song?
Was it the one where you turn your own avatar into different?
Yeah.
Yeah, that video did really well. You got like 700 or 800 views on that, I think.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, some of your videos are really doing. People are watching them. They must be getting recommended to people, or they're getting onto the,
Yeah.
Shorts are like that.
Yeah, and another one. I had one where my avatar. Oh,
What's that, Dustin?
Shorts are drawn back. Shorts have that drawback of not treating idiots. It gives you content.
What do you mean?
Content quickly, and it lets you make up your own mind. Well, because
That's true.
It's like you of having to explain your joke, right? If you have to explain it, it's not really funny.
That's true. That's true. I think that shorts also, people have real time crunches nowadays, and a short just allows them to watch a video really quickly. And, instead of sitting down for a 2-hour debate or something. And shorts don't have ads as well.
Oh.
They are ads. That's exactly what they are.
I guess some of them
they're
are.
commercials. They're commercials. That's exactly what they are. We traded TV for commercials.
We think what Achilles said. Not Aiden said.
Dustin, when's your next show?
I was trying to figure something out for that. I got to find a theme.
Yeah, just come up with a topic,
I'll figure something out.
Yeah, we think what.
Well, yeah. I don't want to get sucked into it like a lot of other people do. Like, I'm not trying to make this into a career.
Right.
Like, this is going to be more of a hobby.
I'm the same way. I've had my career, and so I just do things for fun. And, to try to like make entertaining stuff, just like you want to stream that's people are going to want to come on and watch. Are you going to stream mainly, or are you going to post any videos?
Well, if I'm going to post a video, like, I mean, it's so cliche anymore, man. Like, but I have to be original when I do things.
Right.
So I don't know, man. Like, and the other thing is like, I really don't have a lot of experience with this stuff. Like, I'm really just kind of shooting from the hip. So, I probably will. I have a computer and I've been working on it and I've been doing certain things and trying to figure stuff out. But for right now, I'll probably do another stream come Saturday.
Okay.
Sunday maybe. I'll invite you guys.
Well, if you ever need help, like actually making a video or editing a video, I can give you like any knowledge that I have, which isn't much, but I'm able to edit, and add music and that kind of thing. So
You're good at
welcome
it.
you're welcome to hit me up.
You know what I could use your help on, Big Mad
Yeah.
Mama. I'm trying to design something, right? And I need I need to be like I have it on paper, right? And it looks good on paper, but in order to draw the concept together, I need to make a 3D rendering on a computer.
Okay, so would this be like a thumbnail?
No, it's uh,
It's a
it's like
it's
a
like a diagram. You don't have to give it away.
it's my it's my invention, right? So like it's kind of it doesn't have a name, and it's really hard to define. Okay, but I mean, uh, like I call it the Buck Spyro, right? But if you were to look at it and you were to see it piece by piece, I think you would understand the concept and get what I'm going for.
Okay. But is it animation or it is because there's a graphic, right?
And I've started trying to put something together in like a 3D model render program. I think it's called Voodle or something like that.
Okay.
It's just a model, right? I want to 3D render the parts. That way, like you can look at it and you see what's going
But
on.
is it a still or does it move in?
Oh, it'll move. Like the thing I'm making will move, but it doesn't matter if it's a still or not. Like the concept will be very apparent once you see the parts.
Okay. Okay. Well, Gangster could probably help you with that as well. He's really good with the animation.
Oh, thank you. But you're very good at editing videos too. You're expert.
Thank you. I'm able to edit videos, but I haven't done any animation because I just haven't messed with any programs. Uh, but maybe in the future. But yeah, I'd have to kind of see what you're talking about, Dustin. I mean, without you probably don't want to give away your whatever your secret is or whatever until you reveal it. But whatever. If I can help, I'll do it.
Oh, Dustin, what do you think of what Aiden said?
Can you read it?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I can read it. I've never heard of Mothman. I've never heard of it.
And
I don't know. It wasn't something I was interested in. Yes.
I think they made movies of it.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, thank you, Claude. I appreciate that.
Uh,
I have a new video of where Steven Anderson, I don't know who told me about it. Maybe it was even Claude, but where Steven Anderson went off on Kent Hovind about his marriages. And it was kind of surprising, those two, at odds.
Yeah. Wait a minute. There she is. Faithful, are you there?
Oh, hi, Faithful.
Yeah, I'm here. I keep pushing wrong buttons.
Fuck. How are you today? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
It was interesting. Every day is interesting. Yeah. How was yours?
Good.
Good. You got together with family?
Yeah.
Ah, sweet. I actually had a piece of homemade mincemeat pie for the first time in about 40 years.
What kind of pie?
Mincemeat.
Oh, mincemeat. Yeah, my dad loved mincemeat pie.
I think it's something that has to do with age. I
Right.
think it's age associated because you cannot even buy in stores mincemeat anymore. It has to be ordered online.
My dad grew his own rhubarb to make rhubarb pie.
Rhubarb pie is amazing. I've not had that for a long time either. I kind of like all that stuff, but forget the crust. Just give me the insides,
Right.
you know. And the people I'm staying with, she said, well, the next time I serve Angie Angie's favorite is pumpkin pie. Next time I'm going to serve that to her, I'm going to take the crust off because she leaves the crust, and that's the only part I like. So, and she's the one that makes everything. So, oh well. Did everybody here have a good? I don't know who all's here. Did y'all have a good Thanksgiving and
Yeah,
time with family
good.
and stuff? Good.
Yeah, excellent Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, hi,
Dustin.
Dustin. That is you,
How's it
isn't it?
going?
I'm just listening to voices.
Yep, that's me.
It's good to see you. And if you had a good time with family, that was great.
Yeah,
Nice to see you too.
good to see you.
Listen, I'm going to mute my mic because I got to sort some things out, and it might be a little noisy. So y'all just go ahead and talk. I didn't realize that there was a time change. I knew he was going to go on at 12 o'clock Central because I'm in the Central time zone, and it's like I'm thinking, how come I haven't gotten a notification yet? And it was there. I just had it on silent. That's how it goes. Okay, you guys go ahead and talk. I'm just going to listen.
Oh,
Gangster, are you in the Eastern Standard Time?
yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Uh, the Brother Pike was on the other day. He's Brother Pike.
Oh, on your show?
Hey, you remember the other day? Brother Pike was on.
Yeah, I was there too, I think.
Yeah.
I just love it when you say Brother Pike. It just makes me happy.
Thank you. Yeah. He said him and Aiden next week will like to come on here and do a Bible study about the Godhead. Is that
Oh, the
right, Rick?
triune
Yeah.
Godhead? Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Dustin?
Well, I think mankind's grasp far exceeds its reach. Um, the ability to accomplish things is much more powerful than the ability to understand. So if we're going to try and contemplate the unionness of God, we have to understand that He is the Alpha and the Omega and everything in between. So when we deal with the triune oneness of God, our concept of time will allow us to run into a problem of thinking that there's a continuity issue because we think that one thing being three things at the same time is a problem, but we keep thinking that time is the relevant factor when God is outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Yeah.
agree with you saying God's outside of time. And sometimes I've just got to tell you, Dustin, sometimes the way you explain things, my brain doesn't comprehend it until 10, 15 minutes later after I run it through a few times. You young people are amazing with the way that you think, and I don't have that capability anymore. So I'll re listen to your replay. You're talking about triune oneness.
God,
Are you there?
hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I'm talking about God being the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all in once.
Okay. Okay, but you use the term triune oneness. Am I correct?
That was the term that was uh, offered forth by Big Mama.
Okay, actually, the term triune oneness is a correct term. It all depends on what people recognize as that term. Because that triune oneness is is a much better term than Trinity. So I think that's what.
That makes sense. That does make sense to me. Yes, I understand what you're saying. However, Trinity's just a lazy way of saying triune oneness. But yes, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, and I do have to tell you that if you and I can agree on that, um, I think that's an amazing thing because a lot of people don't see that.
Why isn't Aiden coming in here? Get in here, Aiden.
He's probably helping out or volunteering or working or something right now. So he's originally in the chat, which you don't have. By the way, it would be so nice because there is a group chat that's called, I don't know, Logan, I can't remember what the name of it is. He started it. But if Big Bad Mama and you, Dustin, can at least get Messenger, then they can send out um, a message to everybody whenever Logan's doing this.
Yeah, it's called Missing Mod and Her Yang.
What?
Okay.
It's
Why couldn't it have been Yin? Not Yang, Ying. She needs a Ying, not a Yang.
it's
Right? There's an issue here.
Isn't the
Actually,
yin a
that goes
female?
back to something that was said on somebody's show, I think.
yeah, it was from Lupin. He said,
Lupin.
I'm going to address Missing Mod and Her Yang.
It was pretty funny.
He said, right?
There's no way he came up with that by himself. There's no way. I'm going to question that till I find the answer.
Yeah.
Where is the origin of that idea? Because he's not. Unless he was so stoned one day and he stumbled back into it. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. The mental capacity that we're dealing with here does not. No, I'm sorry. My protractor does not add. Nope. Sorry. My level is not reading straight. I will never believe he came up with that on his own.
It seems pretty creative for Lupin to come up with that, but it's pretty funny.
I wonder, I don't know, was it on accident or I don't know.
Dude, a broken clock is right twice a day. All right, but I do not imagine that was inspired from anything.
It was so funny. I got the video of it. I'm going to
No,
address.
we'll never know. He's not talking to us anymore. So
He said, Mrs. Mod and Her Yang.
Maybe he's talking to Dustin. Maybe Dustin.
I'm sure he's
find
talking
out.
to Dustin, but
Yeah, well, Dustin, maybe you can find out whether he was kidding around with it or it was something that was planned because it is kind of a catchy little phrase.
I don't think that there's very much earnest conversation between the two of us. There is a channel there, but we don't really see eye to eye on anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, you guys are friendly toward one another for the most part.
I mean, yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I don't get me wrong. I got nothing against Lupin personally. I just I have this feeling like, and I feel really bad saying this. He needs to go to a doctor and see if he has a mental condition. I kind of think he does.
Well, Lupin has a physical condition. He had a video out on that. And he has a lot of challenges, I think, that are associated to it. So I don't think he has a mental thing like somebody needs to go see a psychiatrist or be on heavy medication or anything like that. I think that I know a lot of people that have just got physical conditions or they've had something happen to them that their brains might not comprehend or communicate the way most people do. I happen to be one of those. I can just chalk it up.
Do you know why the military took it upon themselves to deem anybody below an 80 IQ to be completely worthless?
I didn't know that I was considered by the military to probably be completely worthless, but I've not had my IQ checked for a long time. I do have a son. my firstborn has had an IQ of 139 way back in the 70s, and I don't know if they've changed the scale of it. And I've got two other kids, and they're like brilliant. I don't know if they've ever had their IQs tested, but my one of my kids is head of. In fact, she just retired from a major banking corporation as a VP. So, it takes somebody with a lot of thinking skills to be able to know all of the compliance laws and everything with the
But Faithful,
dollar.
I kind of have to agree a little bit with Dustin, even though I don't like to be in a position where I'm diagnosing mental illness. But Lupin did tell a story that was, and I don't know if Dustin was on the stream or not, but it was very revealing about things that happened in his past where there were self-harm issues.
And that may have had something to do with the video that he put out. I don't know if that video is still there. I did save it. When I when I watched it, because he mentioned it one time, and a long time ago when I was actually on those streams. And it's kind of like when I first heard Dustin talk, and when I first heard Lupin talk. These two guys just touched my heart. I just have a soft heart for people,
Yeah.
and um, I I want to see people succeed and become everything that Jesus intended for them to be. And that's why I looked that video up, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's been through a lot mentally, physically, emotionally, and everything else.
Yeah, it gave me a compassion towards him where I kind of, you
Mhm.
know, um, maybe treat him gentler than I might have because he's been pretty contentious, and I've been contentious with him in the past. But
Yeah.
that story that he told about his past, um,
Did you watch that?
the only no, the only I didn't watch that. Is it on his channel or?
Well, it is. I actually sent, because Chuck asked the same question one time. He said, I'm wondering whether he has any mental or emotional issues. And told Chuck, I said, well, I saw a video of his, and I actually sent him a link to the video. And uh, to me, it explains a lot. In my journey through close to 8 decades, I've realized that a lot of people may say and do things, but we have no idea what their background is, what they're going through mentally, emotionally, or anything else. And so consequently, we always think that people are on the same level that we're on, or a lot of times we do, I should phrase it that way. And we think, oh my goodness, they ought to be able to do this or this, and they can't. Just like people with autism or Tourette's syndrome, and there's so many different variations of autism, Tourette's syndrome. Uh, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Down syndrome and so forth. And
Asperger's.
yeah, just all of those, and each one of them has a main characteristic. But I spent about 5 years talking to a young man that couldn't talk to his pastor because he said, I talk, you know, he just can't talk about the hard things like I can with you. So we've never met. It's just a voice for him to talk to. Now he can talk to his pastor because he had so many things just to sort out. And
That's good.
he has not Asperger's, he has Tourette's. No, he does. He's got Tourette's syndrome, but it's not normal. It's not
Mm,
what you would normally think, because we think Tourette's syndrome is where somebody's shouting out or something like that. And no, sometimes they just see things in black and white, and
right.
they're self-destructive. And so it's on this big span. And one time he was telling me that he said, I'm just so mad at God. And this is a young man that has, given his life to Jesus. And I told him, I said, then if you're upset with him, it's okay to tell him that, because he already knows how you feel. He called me the next day and he said, oh, I just reamed him out and told him and yelled at him and everything else. And he quietly and patiently said, Chris, I love you. Please don't talk to me that way. He says, how dare you tell me to go, you know? So he said, whenever you talk to me, you got to talk to me a little bit different. And it was a learning experience. We
Yeah, I
just,
think it's important that we just each recognize that we all have our paths that we've taken, and each one is a different path. And a lot of people have had very rocky paths. I know, Dustin, you even kind of told a little bit of your story one time in a video, and it sounded like, you had a rocky path in your childhood, but, it's not something that you need to get into, but it's something that I heard, and, and I just think we all need to be cognizant that we've all maybe not had as rocky a paths, but we each have had our challenges that we've had to overcome to get to where we are right here.
I've gotten
absolutely.
past the victim stance stage of it. Like I don't blame myself and I don't blame anybody else. So and that's a big part of realizing what it is to be in a victim stance is that with blame comes a victim, right? Even if you're not the victim, you're giving the ability for someone to take that stance.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
yeah, it is what's happened is in the past. There's nothing that I can do about it. What I can do is learn from it and maybe make a better future.
Oh, that's good. Hi, Aiden.
That's an
I'm
amazing
not here.
statement.
Oh,
That's an amazing statement. Aiden's not here. Is that what you said?
That's right. I'm not here.
Okay, well, I'm not either. I'm going to mute my mic. So now that you're here, you'll get to do all the talking. I love you.
Hey,
Everybody
I've
mute their
stayed
mics.
quiet longer than every other time. I've stayed quiet in these entire shows put together. All right, that's the longest stretch you've ever seen
That's
with
an
Aiden not
amazing
opening his
amount of
yap.
restraint for you. Just an amazing amount of restraint for you. I realize that I'm like, what, 3 times your age? Almost 4 times your age. Let's get the
Oh,
multiplication
come
done.
on now. Come on, Faithful. 33 is not 3 times my age, all right?
Hold on. I'm 24, but I'm in a body that is around
Ah,
8 decades, and I won't tell which side of 80.
sorry, 24. I said 33. I didn't mean to make you older than you were. My bad.
No. That's Christian. That's 33, and you're only 17.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I was
Okay.
15 when I met Logan, but now I'm 17.
Oh,
Yeah,
gee, and Logan's still the same age.
Yeah,
Ageless.
yeah.
yeah, when I met you, I really thought you were 15 or 14. And you said you're
Yeah.
married? I say, what?
Did you guys meet on Brett Keen's show, or?
Yeah.
I met Logan on Gord TV radio. It's
are
not
you
God TV
serious?
radio. He'll always say Gord. It's not God.
Did you seriously just say that?
I sometimes ask myself, come on, Gord.
I think a lot of us have been through have all had Brett King period. I wound up
It's
over there. I wound up over there because there were other people over there, and it's kind of like. And then I had a lady say, "Oh well, so and so," and it's kind of like, okay, well, I need to listen in. And then he and I started messaging one another and everything, and then he got to the point where I just don't ever want to hear from you again. And I said, okay, fine, that doesn't hurt me my feelings at all. So there we
I just
go.
want to say to him on one live stream, like, even though you're literally below the bottom of the barrel of the internet as a person, at the very least, you brought me together with some pretty cool people, so I'm thankful for that.
There's a lot of, I could say that about someone else, but I won't say it. Aiden, you and I met through Mark
That's
Cohen,
correct, yes.
and how Mark and I met. So there's someone else that because of that particular individual,
A
most of
particular
us are in this
individual, yeah.
room. Most of us that are here have some connection with that individual.
I think a lot of individuals have connection with that particular situation. That's right.
I said I was going to mute my mic. I better before I get in trouble.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Aiden, what do you think of that one video I made lately with that creepy Santa?
I like it. You're bringing back the soldier Claude again. I like it. He's protecting the haunted house outside. Is he protecting it or is he going in to investigate? That's something I gotta know.
Both.
Both, eh? Interesting.
I can see
Sorry if I'm
Claude like
breathing.
totally. I could see Claude totally like Pink Panther with a big like eye-seeing glasses.
Sorry if I'm breathing worse than Dustin that one time when he was walking. The reason why is because I too am in fact walking to my bus stop at the moment. And that was a joke, Dustin. You weren't actually that bad that one time. I was just poking at you.
I think that's where Claude Ball's name came from, was the Pink Panther movie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, Claude. Hi.
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
I know how to tie references
Dustin.
together.
Dustin, take a deep breath,
all right?
Take a deep breath.
It's okay, we are friends. We can have some fun.
Oh, you're friends now?
Yes.
Good.
I missed an episode in the saga then where you guys made friends, or is this just a retcon?
I think everybody
that
on
this is a retcon.
Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't miss an episode. That's good.
We're in the north.
Whenever I'm listening to you guys, whenever I'm either listening to you guys or participating in a live stream and Brianna comes in and is asking what's going on, I'll always say, "Quiet, babe, I'm watching my stories."
Are you turning this into a soap opera over here? What are you
It
doing?
is like a soap opera.
This is not the MCU.
It's 150% like a soap. This is 150% like a soap opera over here.
Don't do that to me. Don't
Will
you
Dustin and Stump reunite? Tune in next week to find out.
Hold on, wait a minute. This channel is not a soap opera. There's another one that is.
I know. I know.
Let's get the shows right, okay? This one is not a soap opera.
Not yet.
This one everyone gets along in. Otherwise, they probably won't stick around very long because there's.
Well, I don't know. People like Claude, now that they're here, I mean, like, it's bound to go off the rails now.
I don't know about that. An artificial Frenchman? You're kidding me.
Oh, Claude, what do you think of that picture where I turned you into a zombie?
Well, it's probably indicative of the state of my mind at the moment. Yes, I'm a bit like a zombie today.
Uh-oh, did you tie one on last night?
Oh, what does that mean? I don't know that. A Taiwan.
Oh, that means drink.
I'll drink heavily.
Yeah, did you drink?
No, I don't only have 1 or 2 bottles of wine every night. Not too many.
I was about to say, you better not say glasses. The French people make wine like the Russians make vodka. They make it so you can't close the bottle once you've opened it.
You know, they make the vodka from the potato, I think. Is that right? From potato?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fermentation from the starch of the potato. But they also need charcoal, and I mean, it depending on who you believe, that they run it over diamonds.
Really?
Yeah, there's some companies that do a whole gimmick of that. Mine, the one that I drink every once in a while is called Polar Ice, and their gimmick is that it runs over ice from genuine Canadian glaciers. It's like, wow.
I always think that the potato proves the reality of God, because, you know, it's shaped perfectly to make vodka with, and, you know...
It's kind of like the banana argument. It's kind of like the banana, isn't it? That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, you better watch what you're saying, Claude, because you're saying that God gave us the gift of spirits.
Yeah, well, he could if he's true, then yes.
I found it interesting. I was asking Christian. Um, his answer was pretty funny, but I was asking him, like, was it a sin that we wiped out smallpox? Because that's one of God's creations, right? Like, he created that. Was it bad that we wiped it out?
Well, if you
You
listen
are
to Odin,
such
he
a
didn't.
blaspheming son of a bitch. Oh, you,
How am I blaspheming? How am I blaspheming? Did God create smallpox, Dustin? Did God create smallpox? Yes or no?
Oh, I swear, you are going to get kicked in the nuts. It's gonna happen.
Did God create smallpox? Yes or no?
What was Christian's answer?
Maybe. How should I know?
Christian said that's a question best reserved for Steven's show, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to ask it on Steven's show, so I'm going to ask it here.
I think it's best to ask on Steven's show because that's more his type of question. They have the answers for everything. There are some things where God's concerned that he's the only one that knows, and with our finite minds we don't, but they seem to know everything and be able to figure it out. If they can't, somebody from Greece probably can.
No, that's smallpox, not smallpox.
Yeah, there's a definite difference between the two.
It hasn't been wiped out.
Except he has a
There's
big telescope.
Smallpox?
There's 1,000 cases a year in the United States, I think, or fewer than 1,000.
I thought it was eradicated.
I don't think so.
I could have swore it was eradicated back in the 70s.
You better look it up.
People quit vaccinating their kids a long time ago regarding a lot of things, and including polio. It's very possible that might start materializing in the United States again.
I mean, yeah, it's funny. My mother, she's an anti-vaxxer, and I remind her on every occasion I possibly can that both of us would not exist were it not for the MMR vaccine, because my grandmother came down with mumps when she was just a toddler and was saved from the vaccine. So,
Hayden, you're right.
But you're talking about you're talking about a vaccine from a different era, right? Where the definition was slightly different.
I mean, what do you mean by definition? Like the vaccine, it works in the same principle. The COVID-19 vaccine works in a similar principle as the smallpox vaccine. It's the same principle, just different diseases.
Hold on. Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So if I get the vaccine, I can't catch it.
No.
Hold on, I think
it's not if you get the vaccine you can't catch it. It's that your immune system. No, you can hold on.
I spread it. It's yes or no. It's not this convoluted answer.
It's less likely.
Well, no, you asked me it. Well, yeah, if your immune system is capable of fighting off the disease, then no, you won't spread it because your immune system at that point is strengthened from dead immune cells from that virus.
Did you get a mumps vaccine and then you couldn't catch it or spread it?
I believe you cannot spread mumps afterwards, but that's because when you do catch mumps after you get the vaccine, you will not die from it. You will just be you won't be immunocompromised as somebody who didn't have a vaccine.
The definition has been changed, okay? And the vaccine is no longer the same thing as it used to be. I'm sorry, Aiden, that's the truth. That is the honest to God truth. The vaccine that we have today is nothing like the vaccines of yesteryear.
Well,
that's because
I mean, like what I said about
vaccines evolve. They are different, of course, because they're treating different things. And I'll have to say, the current one is less effective. It's effective to some extent, but smallpox one was really effective. But yeah, we're learning as the science goes on.
Yeah, Aiden, you were right. It was the only disease that was eradicated. So I stand corrected. 1980.
I thought so.
1980.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I thought that was the case. I was a little surprised to hear that it wasn't. I was like, wow, one of my few little bits of faith in humanity is about to get removed over the course of this live stream. That's awesome.
I've heard what Ken Paul would say is that the fall of mankind turned the bad?
The fall of mankind turned who bad?
The smallpox and all the diseases bad, I guess.
Oh, so they were good before. Okay, so when you caught smallpox in Eden, it was like, oh, this is awesome. Look at all these pox.
I don't know, you have to ask King
They're,
Boba.
they're forming giant domes on my skin that are extremely painful. Wow, this is great.
Yeah, just like all the animals were vegetarian and all that other nonsense he spouts.
What do you think, Dustin? Is that true?
Well, let's put it this way. How big does a cow get by eating grass?
Grassy?
I guess it
Right,
depends
like
on
a
the
gorilla.
availability of the grass.
Pandas eat bamboo, don't they?
Yes, pandas eat bamboo. That's correct.
And koala bears survive solely on trees, leaves from the koala tree, correct?
Eucalyptus.
Yeah, it's the
Eucalyptus.
eucalyptus.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
My bad. The koala tree, whatever. My point is that if it's possible for one species to be a meat eater, right, and the same, distant cousins of the same species, for argument's sake, in the certain company, survive off of complete vegetables, then it seems like it's feasible to me that all of the organisms at one time had to live off of vegetarian diet.
Why?
Even exclusively meat-eating carnivorous creatures whose teeth are physically not able to properly chew up plant matter.
Well, here's the thing. Like when you first split from eukaryote to prokaryote, and you have the very first
Right.
organism that's able to eat, what's there to eat? You're either cannibalizing your own kind, or you're after the prokaryote, the prokaryote, which is a vegetable matter. So there had to have been at least one point where the animals only had the ability to eat themselves, which would have made them extinct, or they had to eat the prokaryotes that were available.
So you do think that at least early form, because you're talking about eukaryote and prokaryote evolution, so that you think that is true? You do think that eukaryotes and prokaryotes used to be the only forms of life on the planet at one point in time?
I'm stating an argument from your point of view and using your facts.
Okay,
Okay,
fair enough.
Like,
I was
I'm
just asking for
steel-manning-
clarification. I wasn't trying to get you or anything.
No. I believe God created everything, right? I'm just trying to find a middle ground.
You're steel manning me. I understand.
But panda bears were, speaking of panda bears, they were descended from flesh-eating animals, and later on they evolved the ability to be able to process and digest bamboo. And as far as the koala bear is a marsupial; it's not a bear to begin with. So they were always herbivores.
Okay,
probably.
you got me there. That's true. But
Sorry, go ahead,
hear your
Dustin.
point, but I just wanted to make those points.
I think the best argument against Eden would be the fact that all of the life that exists today, there are more parasitic species of life than there are free living, independent gathering nutritional sources of life. Like we, as creatures that gather our own nutrients and sustain ourselves on other nutrients, that's actually the exception rather than the rule in nature. Most species are parasitic. And a great example of that is the head louse, because the human head louse has legs that literally cannot walk on a flat surface. They are specifically, I know, please use this out of context, but they're specifically designed, quote unquote, to be able to cling on. I know, right? They're specifically there, though, to be able to cling on to human hair. They aren't able to walk on a flat surface. They're not able to sustain themselves without being on human hair and suckling nutrients out of our scalps.
Thank you, Aiden.
So,
and let me go ahead and steel man your position here, because The other end of the equation is that you're talking about head louse in that specific stage of their development. Okay, there are others. Well, like flies, for example, can transfer head louse, right? And they're not necessarily
Yeah.
designed to do so. But the other end of the equation is that when they do, they also enter another stage of their life cycle where they develop uh, longer legs. Even they do adapt, right? I mean, in their life cycle, you do see change to a head louse depending on their environment.
To a certain extent, sure, but the end stage of that development is inevitably one which needs to rely on a human scalp in order to survive. Like, they cannot gather their own nutrients. They are an inherently
That's
parasitic species.
well, well, to a certain, yes. I mean, well, man, I want to say they're symbiotic, but they don't provide anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
you
like
got
if
me
they
there.
if they helped prevent against some sort of other, even if they help prevent against another parasite, it would be some even slightly symbiotic at that point. But like I ask this question because when people talk about Eden, they talk about this place where there's no death and there's no pain and there's no any of that is just not a concern. But when you look at the morphological layout of these creatures, they needed to, if creation is true, I'm going to take your tact and try to look at it from your position. If Eden was true, then this is a species that was literally created with parasitism in mind. It has legs that were created specifically to cling on to human hair, so this was something that was created to be a nuisance for us, in my opinion, if creation is true.
Creation is
My
true. I'm just going to make
No, I
well,
that.
said
okay.
big if
I understand
creation
that.
is true.
I understand that, and I'm just going to make a couple statements. Creation is true. I'm going to say that without a doubt. The other thing is in Eden before the fall of man, everything was. Uh, we're not carnivorous. There was no death. There wasn't death until sin entered. God is God of life, not of death. That
He's the
that
god of
that
the living, not the dead, right?
that's also for another conversation, not to get into right now. One that Christian ought to come into because he is very good with the scriptures, and probably he and Dustin can both cover those. But here's the other part. After the fall of man, and after I believe it was the flood, animals' natures changed, and different species maybe developed. I have no idea because, and I don't know that even scientists living today can go back that far. I don't know if they can even go back that many thousands of years, whether it's 5,000 years, 10,000 years, or 100,000 million
It's
years.
millions.
No one could ever say because no one was there to know. So everything to speculate and say, well, this changed and that changed. The only thing we have is the Bible to go by that says this is the way it was.
Well,
And everything else can possibly be speculation or things that
that
science is
itself is
learning.
speculation,
My
though,
thought.
isn't it? Because the people that lived, the people who wrote down the accounts of the flood, weren't contemporaries existing at that time. Most of the texts from the Old Testament we found through scholarly research to be primarily from sources during the Jewish exile in Babylon, which was much after the events of the flood. So I don't see how them talking about these events that would have happened then centuries later would be any less speculation than what you just laid out. But even
Well,
further than that, I
Well,
just one more.
now that
Go
well
ahead. No, I'll let
now
hold
now
you
on,
can
you're
hold
stop
on a
there. You can
second,
stop there.
Dustin. I can understand Aiden's question or statement about speculation based on the way young people these days think. Back 80 years ago, people did not have to have a finite answer or a definite answer for every single thing. We could accept some things and wait for everything to come out and wait for understanding. It's like when Jesus said, when the Bible talks about he opened their understanding. So I'm going to let you gentlemen
Is that the mentality that made us
speak.
cross? Like, is that the mentality that the Polynesians used to explore the Pacific Ocean? Is, well, we'll just wait for that to be discovered. No, they wanted to know what that next island was going to be, what that next archipelago was going to be. It's inherent within human nature for us to try and explain everything around us. Religion is an attempt at explaining reality as much as possible. It
Amen.
Right.
does, religion does partially fulfill that human desire. So I do kind of disagree with you that, well, 80 years ago we didn't need everything explained. I do think that people needed things just as explained then as they did now, but the answers that satisfied them at that time do not satisfy us in our time.
And however, I'm not talking about every single specific thing. I'm talking about specific things regarding biblical things. There are some things that that people with their finite minds will never be able to understand the infinite God who cannot be explained. And we can take that up in a conversation sometime, not within this group, because I think it might not be of great interest to everybody here, if that's all
But
right.
we do have in the fossil record, we have examples of dinosaurs with sharp, very sharp teeth, and then which were obviously for tearing flesh away from a carcass. And we have teeth of herbivorous dinosaurs that are very large molar-like teeth. And I don't see how, and what we have from the other side is basically just a, one page in Genesis that's telling us about the entire natural world versus, thousands and thousands of fossils that we have.
I understand that. And you know what? I'm a big one for science because I was a math science English major. And so I'm a very big one where backing science. However, the thing is that there is this thing called faith. And that's something that a lot of people that are into a lot of technology or a lot of the sciences and so forth, they do not they've just not had their understanding open to what faith is yet. And I'm
Well,
saying
faith.
yet because I believe that that will come. It's just a matter of when, because they might get so far in their discoveries that somebody somewhere along the line, maybe not within your lifetime or my lifetime, might be able to say, "Oh my goodness," and then all of a sudden be able to see. So that's why I said that sometimes there are just some things that cannot be explained. I and by the way, as long as you're here, BBM, I want to apologize for speaking so long one night. I get caught up when I talk about the goodness of Jesus and how he revealed himself to me. So I apologize for being so lengthy that
Oh,
night.
you don't have to apologize. That's fine.
However, the things that I
Thank you, though.
said about the things that I visibly saw, and the things that I visibly did see and have seen, and the changes that I've seen instantaneously in people can only be done by what people call the supernatural. And to me, it's natural because that is the realm of that is the spiritual realm, not the physical realm. And most scientists, and I'm not saying all, but most scientists look at the physical realm, and you're
That's what
looking mainly
science is.
mainly well, that is, and you're mainly looking at the physical realm without necessarily being able to tie it together. And a lot of people in that are, I'm going to use the term religious or Christian, I'll use either one of those for what good those values are. A lot of them only want to see the spirit and want to say, oh, science is nothing. It's just no, it just isn't. And I'm not one of those people because I've been on those sides of those coins. I've been where it's kind of like know this and know this and know this, and he's opened my understandings to some things. And that's why I say if we just all get along and have these discussions, because we might not ever be able to definitively say this is the way it is. The discussions are good, but please, everyone, leave yourself open to the fact that it could be more than what you see when it comes to the physical realm.
Well, Faithful, can I,
Oh, I mean, yeah,
Faithful,
go ahead, Big Bad Mama.
So I guess my response would be to say that even if I assume that those were all supernatural events that you described, all the personal events that you went through, where is the step that connects that with the God of the Bible and the fact that the earth is supposedly 6,000 years old? And it's a big gap to fill to posit that your individual anecdotes relate to that story in Genesis and that being literally true. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm not necessarily saying that what it was that I've seen and that I've experienced directly proves that. What it is telling you is what I was saying that night, and what I've said on other broadcasts, like on Chuck's and so forth. Uh, like when I saw the paralyzed toe twitch the first time, that was when I realized that Jesus is, not a was, a con artist. So those things are not going to prove creation. However, the question is is does God exist today? Does he actually do these things? If he does these things today, surely there's a we can't discount the fact that he didn't do it then. If this is correct in the Bible and this Jesus that I met actually is the Jesus of the Bible, then how can we really say that the Bible is not accurate, is not true? And to leave yourself open for your understanding to be open to that. I'm not saying you have to. I and what the early
You
Christians
drove
did,
Dustin off. I'm joking.
I hope not. But what the early Christians did was they didn't have the Bible and say, "Oh, here in Genesis this and over here." Well, they did have the probably the Old Testament. By then I'm not a scholar. I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is this: they didn't have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to go to. They didn't have Romans. They didn't have Revelation. They didn't have all of this. When they met Jesus, and I'm going to state it this way, much the same way I did, only the early apostles met him physically. I met him in a different way. He actually has spoken to me. I've seen different things. But what the people that met him and gave their lives to him, what they did was they went around and they told about who this Jesus is that they've met, much the same way that I have on these broadcasts lately. And that caused people to want to look into it more. And that is what created the birth of the church, if that helps you at all. Because what I do,
I
Christian can talk from scripture and so forth. I can't do that anymore. I used to could, but now I talk about life experience, and I've got to talk about the reality of who he is. And he actually is that
Brother Pike can keep
reality.
his mic muted during this discussion.
That was
Brother
I think that
Pike
might
didn't keep
serve
his
the
mic. Okay,
conversation
Well,
best.
it's time
now
for
that he's
anybody to
here to
say
keep his
anything.
mic muted, I'm going to mute mine.
Yeah. No, I do want to ask you though, Christian. I know that your answer being as hilarious as it was, I do genuinely want to know your perspective on that. Like, do you think it was bad for us to have wiped out smallpox because it was one of God's creations?
There's a lot of assumptions included in that question. The short answer
What?
is
It's assumed that smallpox was one of God's creations?
well, that's an assumption, yes.
I don't see how that could be an assumption.
I mean, the short answer
Does
to
it
the question
exist
is
in this
no,
world?
but it's obviously the long answer is the more intelligent one.
I mean, does it exist in this world?
Well, I mean, it used to.
Yeah, used to. I mean, we still have samplings of it in like the CDC and whatnot, so it still does exist. It's just not infecting anyone
Oh, I
right
didn't
now.
realize that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's they've got all sorts of different fun stuff in the CDC. They've got samples of the bubonic plague and smallpox and all sorts of fun little stuff. But
What's
I
the
don't see how it's an assumption to say that it was created by God because it's one of the species that exists on this planet. Do you think that there was a benign sort of bacterium that existed before smallpox and that's where it came from? Like, do you think it evolved from something else?
Well, I certainly think smallpox evolved from something else. I think we'd all agree on that. I mean, don't you believe that?
Yes.
What about you, Claude? Do you?
Well, if I couldn't hear the last question. There's an echo going on in the background. I can hear someone. There's other things going on. Make it hard to listen to. What can it stopped now? But there
He
was all
said
sorts of talking. Yeah.
he said that smallpox evolved from another creature.
For another creature.
Disease.
Well, it evolved like every other type of
Butterflies
organism.
specifically.
Yes, well, evolution, yes, absolutely. But, for those that believe that God created everything, well, then God created smallpox. You can't pick and choose.
I think I lost sight of the original question.
I think Aiden was saying, was it wrong for, well, maybe that's not the question. Was it? Aiden's back. He can say what his question is.
What's going on? Sorry.
Okay,
What's
so we
your
established
question,
that smallpox
Christian?
evolved from butterflies, but we're trying to get back to the original question.
Oh, well, yeah, no. The original question I asked was it sinful for us to wipe out smallpox due to it being one of God's creations?
Sinful is an interesting term because sin implies there was a degree of unbelief in prophetic utterance. I'm not sure if sin really plays into it, but I think the idea of what you're trying to say is, was it right or was it wrong generally?
Was it morally righteous for us to wipe out smallpox?
Honestly, it's hard for me to even imagine that morality ties into it.
Well, I imagine that there is a morality involved in any decision that we make in our lives, just as much as there was a decision and a concerted effort to wipe out smallpox.
I mean, maybe it's just one of those things where it's like you could look at it from a physical perspective, you could look at it from just a societal beneficiary perspective. I mean, we just did it because it was inconvenient. I mean, it's kind of like saying, is it moral or immoral not to brush your teeth? If you don't brush them, they're going to rot, and God made your teeth, so is it your fault for rotting them? I mean, it's just one of those questions that's not interesting to me, I guess.
Wasn't interesting, but you gave it a long form explanation. That makes sense. I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm just being snide
I
at this
started
point.
out
I'm just
with
being
no.
snarky. Well, I dragged a long form answer out of you, and now I'm going to make fun of the fact that you gave a long form answer while saying that you don't care about it, Christian. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep doing that rather than you just, let me just pouring out how Aiden's narrative about this is stupid.
To me, it's just sort of a non-question. It's like it's to me, it sounds like if somebody's like, "Hey, what came first, the chicken or the egg?" That's the kind of question that is to me.
The reason why I asked it is because I think it has an interesting implication upon humanity's control over the world and how we have been able to attain such a sufficient level of control that we're now overseeing a mass extinction event at this point in time. Like
Dolphins
all the
have to go. I
creatures.
mean, that's for sure.
Well, the tuna industry is seeing to that.
The egg came first. It was a dinosaur egg.
It is certainly true that
I mean,
the
it
egg
had
came
to.
first. Well, when you're speaking in a technical sense, modern chickens are descended from Chinese jungle fowl, which weren't technically chickens, and those eggs certainly came before the modern chicken.
Well, chickens are avian dinosaurs, so it was a dinosaur egg and a reptile egg before it was a chicken egg.
Then where did the eggs come from if there were no dinosaurs?
God dang, put them there.
Well, I think amphibians
Well, I know I'm talking
and fish
scientific.
laid eggs as well.
Okay, but then scientifically, where did they come from?
Scientifically, where did eggs come from?
Yeah, where the first dinosaur egg come from scientifically?
Well, it would be the first dinosaur, which was probably in the Triassic, but that doesn't
But
mean
wait a
that
minute. You said
the
that
animals that, wait a minute,
eggs.
wait a minute.
I thought
The animals that evolved into dinosaurs were laying eggs as well. Everybody's gone, but
oh my goodness, we ran them off.
so Faithful, everything that the things that evolved into dinosaurs, from amphibians into reptiles, from fish into amphibians to reptiles, they were egg layers as well.
But I thought you said the egg came first and it was a dinosaur egg. Or were you
Well,
just
I'm saying
joking?
that the chicken, before the chicken was a chicken, he was another type of dinosaur. And so the chicken wasn't even evolved yet, but yet you had eggs still.
Has science been able to determine where those eggs came from?
Sure, I can give you a decent answer to that. So, eggs are primarily a function of it's an earlier function for mammalian births. It's something that we see expressed earlier in land-dwelling species like Tiktaalik. They laid eggs, and the reason for that is because in early land-dwelling creatures, the development of the creature needed to take place in a water-filled environment, and it needed to be a protected, enclosed environment. Now, the womb that mammals used hadn't come around yet, so that wasn't an option. So the less nutritionally demanding option was essentially to lay this thing that has a protective shell around it that already has water inside of it so that the creature can develop in this water filled environment that is about as similar as an oceanic environment you can get on land.
Then my question would be is where did the thing come from that laid the egg, if the egg came first?
Well, the Tiktaalik was the first.
Anyone there?
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm here.
we don't know that Tiktaalik was the first, but we have Tiktaalik does have. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay. Yeah, Tiktaalik has a lot of features of fish and features of amphibians, but there are fish species that lay eggs as well. So you would need to keep going back further than the fish, I believe. And I don't know about arthropods and different things way back in the fossil record. I'd have to see what the origin of eggs were, but I think they do go further back than amphibians.
That's what I'm. That's why I'm
No, you're right.
asking.
The only reason I mentioned Tiktaalik. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, I think there might be
Hello, I can hear you.
the reason why I mentioned Tiktaalik is because it was the first land.
Okay, Aiden's gone.
Gone again, yes.
Yeah, this thing is not working too well.
Well, I think Aiden is at some bus stop somewhere, so I really, I tend to think it's him.
No, I'm not. I'm back home now.
Oh, okay.
What's going on? Is it because of the STD demon?
I think it is. I think it's a sexually transmitted demon.
Yes, very good.
It says I only got 6 people right now.
How is Ryan doing?
Oh,
Ryan? I spoke with Ryan on the comments section. I guess I could say this because he posted it publicly, so I don't think you'll have an issue with it. But a family member of Ryan's passed recently, so he's been dealing with the loss of his family member, and that's kind of what he's been up to at the moment. He's just kind of trying to get through that right now, so I wish him nothing but the best with that.
Is Claude still here?
Oh, I'm sorry
Yes,
about that. I'll have to
yes.
message him.
Yes, Claude is still here.
Oh, that's good.
He's
How are
been
you been?
patiently. I've been good. I'm on holiday. I'm in Australia at the moment, and my internet is, because I'm like in the outback, and not so good. But I've been able to listen to the show, which is very good. Congratulations on
Oh, thank you.
getting that going, and it's been a very good conversation. Of course, once again,
Aiden,
I think.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead and finish. I have a
It's no
response for
problem.
Aiden and the head louse.
No, that's fine. Because I got to go soon, so I'm going to say goodbye and listen for a bit more, and see you on the next show.
See you
Okay.
soon, Claude.
See you soon,
Bye.
Claude.
Bye.
Have a good one, Mr. Claude. I hope you
Thank you.
have a good vacation.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Dustin?
So when you're saying that the head louse had a specifically designed leg for the follicle of the human being, okay, like what says that God didn't have a different purpose for the head louse?
So the purpose of the head louse during the Garden of Eden was just to cling on to Adam and Eve's hair and just be like, "Hey, I'm just here. I don't know where I'm getting my
Well,
nutrients
I
from,
mean,
but I'm just here."
let's imagine for a moment that the head louse maybe had a hygiene function, right? Because they didn't have shampoo or soap back then.
Sorry, I'm on my headphones right now, so Brianna's totally having an external conversation right now. Um, as far as them serving a hygiene function, I would have to ask you how to demonstrate a possible application where a head louse could be used to provide hygiene to someone's hair.
Well, let's put it this way: the
Okay,
head louse didn't
I'm gonna
have to
get
be
my
headlight.
I'm gonna disconnect from my headphones here so that Brianna can get it on this and not just be talking separately. Go ahead, Dustin, with your response.
Okay, so look, the human head has an interesting.
You there, Dustin? Hello.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Dustin, are you there? You cut off.
You cut off
Seems
right
like
when I changed my headphones too. I thought that I wasn't connected. That was kind of eerie.
it
What about
seems
you,
like
Big
in
Ben?
the past sometimes Dustin has had a little trouble staying connected, so maybe it's just where he's
No,
at.
I understand. I've had that as well. He's got that Christian internet. He's got that Christian Pike internet connection right now.
What about you, Big Ben Mama? How are you? Are you there? Hello.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm right
Yes,
here,
I'm here.
Logan. How's it going? It's me, Big Bad Mama.
How big and how
I'll
bad
have
is
to
his
process
mouth?
that one.
You won't have to
Hey,
spend much time processing it besides just cringing in disgust. Don't worry.
Go ahead, Dust.
Go ahead, Dustin.
so couldn't we say that the louse maybe had a function in eating like dandruff and removing certain things of that sort for
I mean, would dandruff be a problem in the Garden of Eden if there wasn't any problems that humanity had to tend to?
that?
Like, Adam and Eve didn't shed any waste during the Garden of Eden, right? Like, they didn't need to take care of waste or anything like that.
Yeah, don't they eat blood? They don't eat dandruff, I don't think.
Wait, you're telling me that the Bible says that the Adam and Eve didn't use the restroom? Where does it say that specifically?
Well, I mean, like, there's no need to consume things in the garden, is there not? Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't need to want for any kind of food or drink or anything like that. So if you don't need to eat or drink anything, I don't see why you need to expel waste.
The Bible speaks that they
Uh,
were told that they could eat of anything in the garden that they wanted.
exact. There, all of the herbs were given to man to for dominion. Okay,
So we could
and that was
eat.
before Eve was even.
So was there a latrine in the garden? Did God already set up a latrine for us, or did we just kind of wreck some of the garden before we even?
That's kind
Define
of a funny
latrine. I'm
question to
sorry.
ask.
That's a word that escapes me.
Bathroom.
Oh. Well, the tradition of using banana leaves had to come from somewhere.
Hey, maybe Eden was a lot like Kentucky. Most of the guys go out in the backyard.
Are they like?
And when you're out camping, what do you do when you're out camping? You know, when you're out in the woods, and not to mention when I was down at Ocala at the Rainbow Gathering, there was an area that they told me maybe I just didn't want to go over there because of the way the people were attired and the way that they cleanse themselves and everything. So maybe that was a lot like it was then.
Oh,
They were naked?
Maybe it was down at the Ocala gather. Yeah, we're talking about the Rainbow Children.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it
oh,
was a rainbow gathering.
leprechaun.
Yes, I've been to
Nice.
those. Anyway, but maybe Eden was much like camping and natural, and you found your own way to do that. I don't know. The Bible doesn't specifically say what happened, other than the fact that they were given the herbs and the trees and everything else to eat from.
I think that I think the Garden of Eden is a very I think it's a very good analogy for humanity moving from a hunting and gathering kind of lifestyle to a sedentary agricultural lifestyle. I think that's really, to me, that's what the story of the Garden of Eden is. It's an ancient society trying to describe why they went from one form of living to a very different form of living.
Well, isn't that what the story of Cain and Abel is about? God didn't accept which sacrifice didn't he accept? The Cain
King.
It was
sacrifice.
it was Cain's sacrifice of the fruits and vegetables of the earth. He
Yeah, he wanted
honored
to give God
Abel's
veggies.
sacrifice. Yeah, but he honored God's or Abel's sacrifice because it was biblically sound, because that was what God sacrificed when Adam and Eve left the garden to
And
cover
then
their
Yeah, so
sins.
Cain killed Abel, of course, and so what lived on was the agricultural way of living.
To a degree,
So
yes, that's
it's
true.
well,
that's kind of what I
agricultural
think
and
Aiden.
herdsman kind of way of living. Yeah, definitely.
I
Because
think that's kind of what Aiden is getting at, is that story seems to be a metaphor for the shift in a hunter-gatherer culture into an agricultural culture.
yeah,
I mean, but
I what I've heard before
go.
was that when I was talking about the Ark, I remember it may have been, I forget who it was I was talking to about the Ark, but there was a dispute about death having already come into the world in the times of Noah and whether or not they were eating animals or not. And that's a really good point, the whole Cain and Abel thing. The fact that Abel's sacrifice of meat was acceptable to God kind of goes to show the genesis, so to speak, of meat eating behavior in people. So I don't know. I find that interesting because when you look at the flood, if death has already come into the world and there are animals eating each other at this point in time, how did all of the carnivorous animals who don't eat anything except for live prey, how are they able to be sustained? Because I'm pretty sure with a lion, you can't just give a lion a carcass. They won't eat it. They won't accept it. They need to kill the creature
So
themselves.
we're going from head lice to animals. I just want to make sure we're changing
I mean,
subjects or not.
we could stay on topic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to diverge if you weren't done with the previous topic. We could stay on that if you want.
Well, no, I'm just I'm trying to get to a point, right? I mean, The thing is that your whole premise of evolution is descendants based or descendants with inherent modification or change, right? So if head lice were there from the very beginning, it's possible that it was a symbiotic relationship with man rather than parasitic one.
So it still evolved into a parasite then.
Not necessarily evolved, but changed by God, because God came down and divvied out his punishment. You're gonna laugh, but I mean, like, that's what I believe, right? I mean, what are you gonna say? You're gonna tell me that there was a successive model of some kind of uh, uh, common ancestor that human and lice evolved from?
We share a common
Because the
ancestor.
only
That's
way,
correct.
but the only way that the head louse could have evolved is if it evolved away from man, right? Because it didn't start that way with head louse.
Well, yeah, you're right. They're actually the head louse primarily was parasitic towards bird species before it was parasitic towards human species.
But Dustin, you do believe in quote unquote microevolution.
No, I do not.
So you believe that there wasn't a cat kind on the ark, and that every type of cat was on the
I
ark?
understand, right? It's not like I'm not educated. I get. I've looked it up. I've seen.
I think you're cutting out a little bit there. Is it just me, or I can't hear Dustin? But
It's me too.
Yeah, I can't hear him anymore either. His bubble is there like he's talking, but I can't hear him.
I wanted to hear his answer.
Dustin, are you there?
Dustin, are you on mute?
There
Right,
is no Dustin, he is receding. A distant Dustin on the horizon.
all we are is Dustin in the wind.
That's right. That's right. That's all we are is Dustin in the wind.
Okay.
How big
I
them?
thought,
So
I kind of,
my
oh,
argument is that Dustin's argument is stinky and poopy and bad, and my argument is good and reliable and awesome. So that's my argument.
Are you a mocker?
A mocker?
Mocker.
I'm not a mocker. That is not true. All right, you are a mocker for telling me that I am a mo. It's such a fun word to say. Such a fun word to say. I'll be off the
It's
show
fun when
and
you
like
say
just
it with an
by
accent.
myself, and I'll just say it randomly sometimes because it just feels good to say. I don't know why. It's just got like, it's a perfect. I don't know. It's like the phi ratio. It doesn't make sense why it's great, but it just is. All right. It's just it works.
Dustin?
Oh, missing mod.
Oh my gosh, is missing Mod in the house?
No, she's in the comments.
That's
She's
right.
mocking us.
She said, "Hope you all had a good tiny dinosaur." That's not mocker. I mean, it is a tiny dinosaur for all intents and purposes.
That's true. But she doesn't believe it is.
Can anybody
That's
hear
fair.
me?
We
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
you
hear
now.
Okay.
Okay,
You
I
said
asked a
something
question.
about. Okay.
So you don't believe that there was one cat kind that was on the ark that then evolved into all the different cat species after Noah's flood?
All the different cat species and all the different cow species and all the different bison species.
Yeah, pick any.
I mean, I have no problem with believing that if you got enough of these animals in the same place at the right age, that you could theoretically enough of the different species that it wouldn't matter. Okay, I mean, I'm not necessarily daft enough to think that every cat species before the flood made it onto the boat, right? But I'm willing to believe that if you caught them at the right time in the right climate and you had the proper knowledge like a farmer would, you could probably get these animals into one coherent like area for long enough to last through a flood. Yes, I believe that it's feasible. I believe that it would have
You
to
mean
be because it's going to have to happen.
they survived the flood?
No, yeah, on the boat. Yeah. I believe that it's
Okay, so
possible. I believe that
how many cats were on the boat?
see, like I don't know. Okay, you're asking me questions like I mean like I'm not a scholar when it comes to like Noah's
Yeah,
boat.
clearly.
Be
Well,
nice.
Clearly.
Ken
Hey,
Hovind
be nice.
maintains, somebody like Ken Hovind maintains that there was a cat kind, and then that there was a major speciation event within the last 4,000 years that gave rise to all the cat species on the planet. And so he believes in evolution. Actually, it's macroevolution because it's between species to species. So it sounds like that you don't agree with that.
I don't see that as being feasible. I don't. Well, I believe that a dog, like from a wolf, you can get many different breeds, right? And in all honesty, that's all a dog is, no the size or shape. It's just a inbred wolf. Uh, I mean, like, I don't necessarily believe that you could take like a domesticated house cat and a wild cat and breed it until it turns into a lion. No.
Well, this was some sort of
But
a
you're
primordial
just for like
cat
any.
that then evolved into all the other species as they traveled to different parts of the globe, and one evolved into a leopard, and one evolved into a mountain lion, one evolved into a serval or tiger or what have you.
Well,
But you're
God's creation has to change with the environment that it's in, right? I mean, if we're looking at this from a scientific perspective,
So
right?
you'd say he
If you're
selects for the environment?
no, I'd say that like a puzzle, in order for the pieces to fit, uh, you have to find the right pieces and how they go together. I mean, like it's not like God had this perfect plan and it worked out right off the get. The things that He created, the very first things that they did was disobey Him, right? So I mean, if you're God and things aren't going the way you want them to go, what are you left with? You have to improvise. you know,
I mean,
Aiden.
they
I
disobeyed without the capacity to understand that what they were doing was wrong.
Aiden, I have an idea. This is what Ray Comfort would say. He said that the ground was cursed for death, I guess. So that's what changed the smallpox to kill people, I guess.
Oh, okay. So right before the ground was changed, it was a good thing and it was all right, and then all of a sudden it became oogly boogly and spooky and bad. It's just that doesn't make any sense to me. It's some arbitrary shift in all of life that just makes life suddenly become something that it fundamentally wasn't before,
I have.
seemingly out of
how do
nowhere, like
you
that, just apropos of nothing. Like that
how
to
do you
me.
tie consequence? How do you tie consequence to someone who's too young to understand it? You take away something they care about. If you're God, right, and you're clearly not getting your message through to your creation, and they feel like their free will gives them the free reign to do as they please instead of what they're told. What do you do in that situation, Aiden?
If you create
I'm gonna
something
put
with
you
free
in the
will,
hot
you're
seat here.
inherently yeah, but if you create something with free will, you inherently understand that it's going to have the capacity to disobey you. If he didn't want us to have free will, if he wanted us to be robots that just did everything that he said, then he could have easily created us that way, but he clearly didn't. He created us with the capacity to be able to disobey him, and he knew that we were going to disobey him because he's omnipotent. So
What does that sound like, Aiden? What does that sound like? Does that
it
sound like
sounds like, well,
raising
let me tell you
children?
exactly what that sounds like. It sounds like if I was a father that somehow knew that my child was going to burn his hand on the stove, so I warn him, "Hey, little Timmy, don't touch the stove, you're going to burn your hand." And he touches the stove anyways because he doesn't understand the actual consequences of what he's about to do. And rather than making up a reasonable punishment, I damn him to an eternity of suffering and torment and death, where he's going to have to find his own way to be able to unburn his hand. Otherwise, he's going to get sent to the biggest furnace of all time. That's basically the analogy.
I don't. You have to ask Ray Comfort. He comforts you with
I
a
think
ray of sunshine.
I think you're jumping to conclusions about judgment and what it means to mankind. Okay. Uh, I don't know enough to say whether or not I'm going to heaven. I don't know enough whether to say Adolf Hitler made it to heaven or not. Okay. I don't make those moral judgments, and in my equation, those things don't really hold any weight, Aiden. Right? Like those are your issues to work out. In all honesty, the only
Well, I'm not
evidence or
trying
the
to say
only
that they're
advice that I
anything but my issues, but I don't see how them being my issues takes away from their legitimacy. Like, the fact of the matter is
because
that these are two entities that were told something, purposefully did not have the capacity to understand the implications of what they were being told, and then were punished even though he knew that that was exactly what they were going to do. What is the point of a punishment to somebody that knows the actions of what's going to happen anyways?
Aiden, you're you're jumping topics here. My question was specific, right? It had to do with. I'm trying to remember what it was, but you're changing the subject, and you're very good at this Jedi mind trick bullcrap.
What do you mean? I don't see how I changed the topic at all.
You did. You did something here. You did a mental judo. I see it. I can't deconstruct
I mean,
it
we
at the
can
moment.
wind back the tape, and if I did, we can go back, and if I
You
did do
did.
that, then I'll take
You
full
really did.
responsibility for it.
Well, no, look,
Dustin?
well, yeah, okay, look, my question was, okay, look, here's the thing. Now my question was, if you're raising a child, okay, which is what you're dealing with, you admitted yourself, these children did not have the capacity to understand that what they were doing was wrong, right? So my
Yes.
question was, how do you tie consequence to an individual who doesn't understand what they're doing is wrong? How do you
You give them the
assign a weight in
capacity
their
to.
mind?
You impart
You
upon them
can't
the
give them,
capacity to be able to understand it.
but they're not robots, like you said. He could have made robots. He didn't make them. So I'm
No,
asking
but
you,
you don't
from a
need.
perspective of a father, if you are a father, which is how the Bible describes him, okay, from that perspective, if you're dealing with brand new baby children that have no concept of right or wrong, right?
Yes.
And they took and they eat of this fruit, and now they understand the consequences of their actions, which is why they hid. Okay, how do you show what is supposed to happen does actually happen? How do you follow through? These people knew what they did was wrong.
They didn't,
No,
though.
they didn't. That's
They couldn't
by
have known that they
They
could not have known.
until they had already done it, because God did not
No,
make them
that's
to
what I'm
understand
saying
that
after
Well,
what
the
they were
fact.
doing was
hold
wrong,
on.
because they had no concept
That's
of
what
right
I'm
and wrong
saying
or
after the
good and
fact.
evil before they ate the fruit.
That's what I'm saying after the fact. That's what I'm saying
Right,
after the
and
fact. After
my
they ate the
response, hold
fruit,
on, I
then they
wasn't
knew
able to
what they
say
did was
anything.
wrong.
I wasn't able to say anything. I do want to make a response. Your analogy, if I'm God in this analogy, right, I would already impart that understanding of good and evil upon them so they can understand the implications of what they're going to do wrong. Like, if they know what good and evil is, right, then they can understand that them partaking in that is a bad thing to do. And well, I know your response will probably be, well, it's the knowledge of good and evil. Why would he do that if it was bad for them to do that? Because it avoids them having to fall in the first place. If they already have that knowledge that what they're going to do is bad, then they have no excuse at that point. Then there is no possible get out of jail free situation there, because in that situation, that's an entity that knows what they're doing is bad. Right? Like, if I'm a teenager and my father tells me, don't touch that thing on the stove, it's going to burn your hand, and I do it anyway, I don't have an excuse. Because at that point, I understand that my consequences are going to lead to negative outcomes. That is a fair punishment at that point. If I get punished at that point, that's fair. That's a righteous
So you're
punishment because
saying,
I understood.
so you're saying in this scenario, your issue is that the punishment does not fit the crime.
Absolutely, it does not fit the crime. You cannot punish an entity that does not understand that what it did was wrong. If it doesn't have the capacity to know that what it did was wrong, that would be like me punishing my dog every single time it, like, if my dog barked and I punished it for barking every single time that it
Aiden,
barked, that would be an unjust punishment.
Aiden, look, I agree with your premise, but I think that the other end of the equation, the thesis is a little is missing a few of the numbers here.
Hey, buddy,
Look,
are you having a
if you're
stroke?
gonna say
Because nothing you just
no,
said
I'm
makes
not having a
sense.
stroke.
The views of
Well,
Brianna
thank you. I
DeRoche do not
appreciate
necessarily represent the views of Aiden Linden.
that. Look,
These is numbers toast. These is toast. Toast, toast. I smell toast. Strong.
I'm sure you do. You're telling me that you have an issue oh dear Lord.
Hey, who am I mocking, by the way?
Oh, that's Dustin.
I have no idea actually.
That's Dustin. She's kind of new to actually partaking in this community, so I'm kind of trying to show her around. Brianna, this is Dustin. Dustin, this is Brianna. I'm glad you guys have gotten off on such a good foot.
Dustin, do I need to call 911 or are you done having a stroke?
I mean, I take a look at the individual in the chair to the left of you and I ask the same question.
Well, the individual in the chair to the left of her is a wall, so I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good idea.
Are you sure? I check.
Okay, I picked a direction at blind and I have no reference.
No,
so.
It's all right. You had a 50-50 chance. You had a 50-50 chance, and you happened to hit heads when it was tails. I don't blame you for that.
To the left of me.
That's true. Arthur is to the left of you, so.
Joker's on the right.
Anyway, look.
Oh, sorry.
So in this scenario where you're God, right? You're telling me that when you set a boundary line and you're not taken seriously, that you wouldn't take that personal. Say like you were to tell me to stay away from. No, I don't like that example. Say you were to have a 17-year-old daughter, right? And this 35-year-old man decided to come around. You're telling me that there's no hard limit there's no like restriction there?
Does she have the mental capacity to understand that her violating that restriction will do harm unto her?
I believe that at 17 she would have that capacity.
Okay.
But the issue
then it's
is
not analogous then.
It is directly analogous because we're talking about someone who could take advantage of her regardless of her mental state. So you're telling me that there's no scenario in that particular situation where you could see yourself punishing the individual who's 35 years old?
Well, no, I could. I absolutely could. But what I'm trying to highlight to you, though, Dustin, is that the difference between this example and the example given in the Bible is that when God tells you, do not do this or you shall surely die, death has never happened before. You can't explain what death is to somebody who is literally not only themselves, but have never seen another thing ever die before. All that Adam and Eve knew at that point was life and being alive. They'd never had an example of something ceasing to live. So when God says, don't do this or you will surely die, that's basically like him saying, flibbity flew by Jim Jam. That basically has as much meaning.
I like your analogy, but did God just turn around and smite Adam and Eve? Did he do that, or did he give them like 1,000 years?
I mean, he went into the garden. It's actually interesting you bring this up because he went into the garden and actually asked where they were and tried to find them in his physical form. So no, he didn't necessarily smite them right away, but he did once he found Adam tell him that once he found Eve, said that she had to leave the garden, and Adam went with Eve because he didn't want to be alone.
So, like, my point is, like, as a father, if you were God, does that not seem like a just punishment? You got to go in timeout for a little bit before you got to come back to me.
Yeah, but
We
they
don't
didn't
know
get
that Adam
they didn't
went to
ever get to
hell.
go back to Eden though. Their descendants were punished because of something that their parents did, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
see.
but I don't see that that's the case. I don't see that they were necessarily punished. They just ended up having to live with the
They were born
situation
with
By
the way it
sin.
was.
definition, what happened?
And,
God punished them for sinning against him.
and they created all of the
I'm sure
descendants after them inherently with sin. Everybody born after
you're,
Adam and Eve who were created were born with sin.
which doesn't, but there's a difference between being born with sin and being punished. I mean, were they born with sores all over their body? Did they have some unknown burden on
I
their
don't think
life?
there's a difference
I
between
mean,
those two things because being born with sin inherently sets you at a disadvantage. It
no,
inherently
it
disadvantages
doesn't.
The
you.
punishment is that they have to
Not if
toil
everybody's
all
born the same.
eternity.
If everybody's born with sin the same, then there's no real inherent disadvantage
Yes, there
because
is because
everybody's born
somebody
the
like
same.
Adam. Okay, so
The punishment is
look
that
at
we're
somebody like
going to
Jesus,
endure
right?
painful
Hold on,
childbirth.
Brianna, hold on.
Oh my God. Do you know anything?
So
You point to the outlier and hold everybody accountable for that outlier. That's no,
no,
that's the
but
one. You're going straight to Jesus, like he was the only outlier. Yeah, okay,
Jesus was the
I
only
see your
person
point.
after Adam that was born without sin. Is that not correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so Jesus had an inherent advantage that nobody else around him in his life had. And I'm not even talking about his godhood. I'm talking about the fact that he was born without sin. That is an inherent advantage.
Are you angry about this?
I'm angry about the implication that we are born inherently set at a disadvantage and are told that that disadvantage is somehow our fault. Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm mad that I wasn't born 7 feet tall. Okay, look,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, look,
Aiden.
Yeah,
it is what it is,
but
isn't
there's
it?
slightly different circumstances, right? Like the fact that we are punished for the actions of two entities that existed thousands of years ago is not a just thing. It's just not. It's not a justifiable action to me.
Dustin, I got a picture of you that's
Yeah.
10 foot tall.
That's true.
Uh,
That's true. Have you
Something
seen that
tells me
picture? It's
there's some
great.
kind of. No, I have not seen that. Something tells me. I, anyway,
Ghost man, you need to put that picture up. Make sure his face is on it.
It's
Yeah, I did.
great.
He's got it, Dustin. It's
so okay,
verifiable.
well, hold on a second here,
Right.
Aiden. Okay, so you're God. Okay, right? Your child goes and eats something you don't want him to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Do you take them to the hospital so that they can live as long as they can, or is it more of a punishment to let them die? And here's the other end of the equation, right? Like if you take them to the hospital and you tell them that they can't eat that food anymore, and that means being separate from you, does that mean that you know that there isn't going to be a day where that person comes back to you? Because we don't know that Adam ended up in hell. So you're saying that it's some kind of a punishment? It's really not. It's really kind of a lesson. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Not I guess on a very basic level, I suppose, but I disagree with the notion that Adam wasn't in hell, because Eve and Adam both received ultimately the same punishment for the transgression, and I don't see how that similar punishment wouldn't have been met out in judgment.
You're well. I mean, in this
No, I
scenario,
don't.
you are God,
I
but then
start at 6. No, it's okay. I understand. It's all right. No, it's all right. Sorry, Brianna was trying to get me back on track, but then didn't realize I have more time today than I typically do.
I thought that was
But as
cute.
far
She
as
gave you
as
permission.
far as them coming back to God or anything like that, like, to me, the only way that hell makes any sense whatsoever is if you are able to redeem yourself out of it. If you are able to repent sufficiently
see
of everything that you did, such that you are
now
removed
that's
from there and allowed to be given a chance to actually be with God. Like, but that's not
now
the Christian message. The Christian message is your only chance to do that is while you're here, is while you're in this world.
that's
That's
not
the
true.
only time that you have to really make your affairs and get your affairs in order. And then after that,
No,
you're basically you're stuck with whatever you've got.
no, there are those that go to hell, okay, that they do, all right, but they don't relinquish Jesus. They just don't know that they have to invoke Jesus to be saved, okay?
Right, but
That
you could
that
yell at
hell is a
God. You could yell
place
at God until you're blue in the face in hell, and He's not going to hear you because He's not there.
there are those that's true. There are those that's true because they live their life as though Jesus was not there. Okay, but there are those who have only known Jesus briefly but need to remember that Jesus' blood is that which saves you. Okay, that's the reality. There's a little silver string that holds you to Jesus when you're in hell. Okay, and as long as that silver string is there and you're invoking the name of Jesus, you can be saved.
Yeah,
That
but
is a reality. I happen to know that for a
God,
fact.
you agree that hell is a place where God is not present, right?
Hell is a place where there's no locked doors. It is the absence of God, but it's by the wish of the individual. You were only in hell because you put yourself there.
Um, I, from my readings of the Bible, my understanding of hell is that the reason why it's so wicked and horrific and horrible is because it's literally the only place in all of the universe that God is not present. So,
Because those that are there wish him not to be.
right, but
God
what
will
I'm
give
trying
you
to say though
exactly
is
what you ask for.
right, but what I'm trying to say is that you get sent to hell and you toil there for 10 million years, and all of a sudden on the 10 millionth and first year, you decide, wow, this hell thing is really horrible. I give my heart over to Jesus and I give myself over to Him and His Word. He's not going to know that because He's not there.
Aiden, look, I hope one day you and I are looking at each other like from the other side of the pearly gates. I really do, buddy. I do. Okay. Uh, I can't say that I'm gonna be there. I don't think for any good reason that I should be there. Okay. But I'm gonna tell you this. Um, if my having to live life not knowing or knowing is an issue to where I have to question something that I have a belief in, right? Like you, for example, you question God because you don't know. Uh, then I have to be left with the decision of faith. And that's where I've come to this with my conclusions, buddy, is like it's really a leap of faith. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I had my mic muted.
Oh, you knew what Brother Pike told you to do?
Yeah, I was gonna keep my mic muted while talking, but then Dustin would get upset. So it's a careful balance I have to strike. Dustin's on the edge right now. He's like Bruce Banner when he's like right on the edge of going Hulk mode, and like the one little bit is gonna like just push him over the edge, and that's gonna make him freak out and make him go all Hulk. Yeah, he's right there right now. His blood pressure is like 1 point away.
Where'd Faithful go?
Do you have a satellite or something? What's going on here? I'm looking for a drone. What is going on?
Oh man, one of these
Do you
days you're
see
gonna
me
see a
punching
drone
through
that's
trees
totally
right now?
unrelated, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my god, it's real. Aiden really is spying on me."
How?
Those damn Canadians.
That's right.
Oh, Aiden, I heard about what happened at the border. It was just some crazy guy running into the thingamajig.
He ran into the thingamajiggy.
Yeah.
Well, that explains why there was an explosion. You never run into the thingamajiggy.
Yeah.
Like, don't you
You're not
realize?
supposed
Like,
to.
I've played more than one video game in my life. That is a factual statement. And even just having played one video game, I could tell you the thingamajiggy, specifically the red thingamajiggies, are not things that you should either shoot or run into because they will explode.
Yeah.
Unless you're a sufficient distance away.
That's true. That's true. If other enemies are close to the red thingamajiggy, that's when you can shoot it or run over it.
Aiden, what would you say to Ray
Right.
Comfort? Would
When I
he
think of
comfort
Ray
you?
Comfort, I think he's a charlatan. Is when I think of Ray Comfort.
What would you say to him? He says, he tell you what he always says about, like, I ask you, have you ever
Have you ever
stolen?
felt lost in your heart towards another woman? Have you ever committed adultery in your heart?
Yeah.
Have
What
you
would you
ever
say?
stolen anything, Aiden? Well, if
What
you've
would,
stolen something, that makes you a thief.
yeah, what would you say to him?
I would say that the 10 Commandments, as laid out in the scriptures, are, besides the first 3, in my opinion, just good guidelines to live your life under in general, and were things that people knew well before the times of Moses. People knew that you shouldn't kill other people because that inherently puts you at a social situation where you yourself are in danger. People know not to steal from other people because they have the empathy to realize, man, it would really suck if I was the person being stolen from right now. Like, we can use parts of human psychology to explain why these things are bad. Like, I've never understood, and I'm not saying that Dustin or any of the people in this room are making this argument, but I've never understood this idea that, well, you can't tell me that murder's wrong unless you use the Bible. It's like, I actually absolutely can tell you why murder is wrong without using the Bible. It's a very simple notion.
What if Ray Comfort says, but you need to eat a banana?
Well, Aiden, I'm just gonna have you peel this banana right now. You ever notice when you're peeling that, it felt really comfy to peel, huh? It was really easy. Really, it almost feels intuitive that you're supposed to peel it that way, huh? It's like, if you hold the banana in your hand, Aiden, you notice there's 5 grooves there. There's 5 grooves. You know how many fingers you have on your hand? 4 and a thumb, but that's besides the point.
What do you think, Dustin?
What's that? I'm trying to have 2 separate simultaneous conversations here. My brain is going into Fukushima meltdown right now. The contents of my brain are about to leak all over the Pacific Ocean.
Aiden, what
Yes,
would you
hello.
say to Ray Comfort if he said, you ever stole something, you're a thief? You ever
I
lied,
have
you're...
stolen things. I'm not gonna lie. I am a thief. I have stolen things in my
I
life.
think you stolen Dustin's heart.
Like, there's definitely been times in my life where, like, I was in grade school, and I don't know if you remember this. Probably both of you are probably too old for this, but there was a show called Bakugan that was really popular for a while. And they came out with these toys, and there was a person in that class who had one of them that I didn't have, and I wanted it. So I went into his bag during class when I said I needed to use the bathroom, and I took it. And I know that makes me a thief. I understand that, but I don't see how I need the blood of Jesus to understand that what I did there was wrong and that I should go and apologize to that person and make right, which is what I ultimately did.
Oh, that's good. But I think you also stolen Dustin's heart.
Stole Dustin's heart. Well, we could talk about that after the show. All right, that's an after the show kind of conversation. No, I'm just joking.
After dark conversation.
I'm just joking. I am gonna go though. We've got to get this Christmas tree put up and set up and everything. So unless you have anything that you'd like to say as a closing statement, Dustin, or if you don't feel like we haven't finished here, I'm happy to stay. I don't want it to feel like I'm running away or anything.
Just Aiden. I think
Uh-oh.
I have some things I want to say, but I don't have time to say it. I'll just put it that way. But I love you to death, man. Like I said, I hope I see you up in the pearly gates, or even if I'm on the other end of the equation, I still want to see you, like through the gates at least. So,
Oh,
you know,
Well,
maybe consider that a little bit.
I mean, I do. It's something that I say to Christians, and I know you don't say this, but a thing I hear a lot from Christians is, well, you know God exists, you're just angry at him, or you just refuse to acknowledge him, or something like that. To which I would say, I have nothing but incentive to acknowledge God if he existed and to worship him. There's literally no reason for me not to worship him at that point. There's nothing but incentive because you've either got the choice of not worshiping him and facing the fires of eternal torment, or worshiping him and experiencing ultimate pleasure for all of eternity. Like, there's nothing at that point that would incentivize me not to worship him if I thought that he existed or if I had sufficient evidence that he does in fact exist. Is it possible that he exists? Sure. I'd never discount that possibility. But if I found out suddenly that he did in fact exist, or I had some sort of definitive evidence for myself that he existed, I would have nothing but incentive to worship him.
oh, that's good. What you ask Santa for Christmas this year?
um, I asked him to give me another year with Scooby.
Aw, adorable little Papa Dog.
Yeah,
Just
here
a
I'll
dog.
That's
show you
nice.
Mr. Scooby real quick.
Hi, little buddy dog.
Good boy.
That's not Scooby. That's Scrappy.
He can
Aw,
certainly
That's
be
Scrappy
scrappy
Doo right there.
sometimes. There's no doubting that.
aw.
I
So,
would hope that instead of waiting till you guys reach the pearly gates, that you connect when you're still alive, and our friendships are what make us and what make things deeper than our our particular religious beliefs.
uh-huh.
Man, I'm baiting my hook with all kinds of different things. I've tried worms, I've tried leeches, I've tried banana peels. This man is not biting.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. You know what?
That's all right.
Jesus is cool, and I can't even say it
There we
jokingly.
go. Now we're going in the right direction. I'll get you there eventually.
There you go.
Mr. Mud, join us.
Missing mod. You are missing. We want to verify that you are not kidnapped and only missing. Send us some form of life or sign or
Yeah, proof
something.
of life missing mod. Send us today's newspaper. Let's see today's newspaper.
Dustin, I want to talk to you more about this microevolution thing when we get a chance.
We got all day, man.
Yeah, you can talk.
I might go make me a sandwich.
I know I have some Thai food on the way, so I'm gonna be eating lunch here in a second.
Did you
Ooh,
tie
Thai
the
food.
food?
What kind of Thai food?
I got yellow curry.
You got
That's good.
chicken?
Yellow curry with broccoli and Fried tofu.
Nice.
Huh.
I'm about to get some foreign cuisine myself. It's this small little chain called McDonald's. I was thinking about getting some of that later.
Is that from Ireland?
Well, I mean, it is foreign food technically, so.
What are you going to get?
Oh, double quarter pounder with a large fry and a large drink,
Nice.
like the absolute glutton that I am.
Dustin, would you get along if Mr. Mike come on?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with missing Mud.
Okay, that's good. A Papa Dog! Adorable dog.
Get me a Coke.
Hi, Papa Dog, and hi, Mrs. Linden. Aw, adorable
Charles
dog.
Logan is, hey?
So, here's the thing that I don't understand. Okay, is when it comes to evolution.
Yeah.
So, what makes the structural difference? Like, so you're talking about from like a prekaryote to eukaryote, right? How is the structural difference in the cell wall? Like how do you account for the intricacies that and from this organism to that organism? I mean, we always rationalize it away like it's not a big leap, but it actually kind of is.
Well, haven't we made these multicellular organisms in the lab at this point?
No, we have not.
What's he called?
We've taken
Chlamydomonas or?
Oh, Big Bad Mama, I have a
we've
question.
taken empty dead stem cells, right? But they're preformed dead cells from like babies and things like that, and we've altered their chemistry to where they can accept certain RNA in the mitochondrial cell wall, but we haven't actually from scratch made our own cell and imprinted it with its own DNA chain, right? Where the polymers will separate with the cleavage fro so that it actually will take and create its own zygote.
Well, we haven't. Yeah, I agree. We haven't made a cell in the lab.
Oh, Big Bad Mama, I have a question.
But that's going back to abiogenesis. We don't know that the cell was that complex when there's probably no real defining line between non-life and life. I mean, you're going from complex organic molecules found in nature to probably, proto-RNA and, proto-cells before it got to what we would call cells today, billions of years later.
Oh, Big Bad Mama, I have a question.
Are you referring?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I heard this one guy said they could evolve chickens back in being dinosaurs. If they did, will you have a dinosaur chicken army you could use to take over the world?
Well, just keep in mind that chickens are considered avian dinosaurs, as is every bird. There's
like
no differentiation in science between birds and dinosaurs. In fact, birds are the only lineage of dinosaurs that survived the Cretaceous extinction.
Like back into being like a dino.
But back into having scales and stuff.
Yeah, like a dinosaur type one. Would you use it as an army to take over the world?
I would think about that, but I'm not the take over the world type of person. I'm more like let's all get along type of person.
That's more of a Dustin type thing, right, Dusty?
I don't want to take over the world. I just want those that do to stop.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Right. Okay, my food's here. I'm going to get going. Ghost, if you're on later, I'll come back on.
Okay. Have a good food.
Copy that.
Okay.
Yeah, eat your food well. Enjoy your meal.
Dustin. Yeah, if you did rule the
Yeah.
world, what would you do?
I mean, I'm not the person to ask that kind of a question, buddy. If I got
Uh,
my hands on power, I probably would be the worst dictator there ever was.
what would you do?
I'm not gonna lie. I
What?
mean, like hypothetically,
Oh,
if I was in power, like I would turn to Hitler and I'd say, "Hold my beer."
whoa, for real?
Yeah, for real.
Wow.
Dude, I would not be a good benevolent leader, okay? I'd be a horrible dictator.
Would Miss Maud be your queen?
I mean, why only one?
Uh, would her friends be your also other queen?
Uh, buddy, I don't think
Oh,
I'd have a queen, okay? No. I wouldn't be married to anybody. If I was ruler of the world, the last thing in the world I would do is get married.
wow. What
Have you ever
about
heard of a
yeah?
can oil heater?
No,
Take some oil, right? And you put it in a can, and then
yeah,
you put a can inside of that can, and you spin the one can, and it'll heat up
yeah.
the oil, and you can produce quite a bit of heat that way.
Wow, wow. What about if uh uh what do you think? What do you think of that? Ryan, he said the other night that what he did with that statue. It's kind of creepy that
What?
uh when he said that statue's eye glowed in front of him.
Who's
What would
that?
you
What are
do,
you talking about?
Ryan? What he said the other night that when he did this one thing,
Oh,
yeah.
if I was staring at a statue with glowing red eyes, look, I mean, I've been in situations where, buddy, like, have you ever? I'm live. Never mind. I like glowing red eyes is uh not really uncommon. You hear
Oh,
about that a lot.
what would you do to the statue? Uh, Steven wants to put oil on it. That's kind of weird.
Um, well, I would probably circle it with salt and then encase it in a wooden box.
Oh, Brother Pike, he would punch the statue in the face.
Brother Pike.
Yeah, he's
Where is
Brother
Christian
Pike.
Pike?
Join us, Brother Pike. We missed you, Brother Pike. What about you, Miss Ahmad? Can you join us? Oh, Miss Ahmad wants to know if the Book of the Dead is real. That's what Miss Ahmad asked.
Well, I mean, there was an original and then there was copies. So,
Oh, oh, Brother Pike's here. Hi, Brother
awesome.
Pike. We
Logan, the
Hey,
way you
missed
say
Christian.
that's very funny.
you.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you. We all missed
How you
you.
been?
Yeah, so I didn't mean to leave earlier. We've been on the road traveling. We're doing some more Thanksgiving stuff today, so it wasn't a good time to stay in.
Oh, did you want to get any stuff for Black Friday?
No, we got a couple things we might buy online. I ain't getting in them lines. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very dangerous on Black Friday. They go crazy, almost as crazy as Dustin.
Years ago, there were stories of people shooting old ladies for their Xboxes and all kind of stuff.
Yeah. Is that true, Dustin?
I don't know of
Dustin.
anybody getting shot for an Xbox, but I do remember an old lady getting run down in a parking lot.
I heard a guy
Well, I mean,
got.
what'd you get? You got the last Xbox.
I heard a guy got killed over a chicken sandwich from Popeyes.
That's a rough way to go, boy.
Mm-hmm. W. Dustin, you don't mess with his chicken pot pie from Popeyes, right, Dustin?
Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
I don't even
That's
like
correct.
chicken pot pie.
How many chicken
Who
sandwich?
doesn't like chicken pot pie? What are you talking about?
I like beef pot pie.
Hey, there's a little place in downtown Savannah that does all these like old English style pot pies. It's really great.
Yeah, I'd
You said
rather have beef pot pie. Beef pot pie is better.
We had those there. Yeah, they were good.
when you do your Bible study, what you would like to teach about?
I'm thinking about that, Logan. I haven't decided yet, but I do think that one evening this coming week will be good if it works for you.
Whatever day be good for you. It all good
Okay.
for me.
I should know about tomorrow, but yeah, I haven't decided on the subject yet. I'm still listening to Dustin to see what's needed.
Oh.
What? I think what we need to do, Christian, is suss out the justness. You know, how do I put this? Like, how do we make it clear that God's judgment is just?
It's an interesting subject.
Because, well, and the reason is because it seems like Aiden has an issue with it. He's saying that God's judgment is unjust, and I keep trying to refer him to think of it like you're a father and you're dealing with children that don't know any better. How do you attach a consequence to action, right? But then he's saying that God is unjust because his judgments where the punishment does not fit the crime.
Unjust by whose measurement is the question.
That's and that's the thing is like that's where I ran into a wall with trying to explain it to him because I was trying to give him the perspective of a child, a father raising a child, and he keeps looking up at it as he's being punished as a child to a father, and that there's a resentment there. And I'm trying to show him that.
It's an interesting thing. I don't mean to interrupt you. I was just thinking about it. It's the whole idea is who has the right to make these decisions of what's just and what's unjust. You know, the biblical narrative is that God is the arbiter of justice. And so, how then can we, by our own finite sticks, judge the quality of the arbiter of justice himself? So, really, when you say something is unjust, it has to be unjust according to someone. So, my question would be, who is the arbiter of justice unjust according to?
I know what they would say. Going to, according to them.
I mean, that's the obvious answer, but that's sort of part of the biblical narrative is for us not to trust our own discretion.
And that's kind of where I think that we need to kind of focus because, well, in Aiden's perspective, or at least for his sake, because he doesn't see God's judgment as being moral.
I mean, I understand that, but it goes back to the same question: moral in accordance with who? I mean, society's standards of right and wrong are ever changing, ever growing, and adapting. And so we live in a relative position, whereas the God of the Bible seems to live in an absolute position. So those who are making judgments based upon relativity are in no position to judge those who are making judgments based upon absoluteness.
By the theory of relativity?
Yes.
The theory of relativity.
No, I understand their criticisms. When I was an atheist, I had the exact same criticisms. Part of having faith in the Bible is losing faith in one's own ability to have discretion.
Oh. Aiden said, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What did Aiden say?
He said, people knew it was wrong to murder people before the Ten Commandments. Is that true?
there are people who certainly had rules against it, if that's what he means. I mean, the law against murder in the Ten Commandments is not the first statute that was ever passed against murder. So it's obvious that within the collective consciousness of humanity, that was frowned upon. It's one of those things that once they point that out, then they have the responsibility of finishing that thought, and that part never seems to come next.
What do you think,
You know,
Justin?
the issue is that you can say mankind has morals and it's based on their own judgment and mental faculties, but we have a prison full of people who continually do it. So if mankind's morals is based on mankind, then there are no morals.
Well, it's like the thing that Aiden mentioned. I mean, I wasn't here. I'm assuming this is what he mentioned from the Ten Commandments, where it says, "Thou shalt not kill." And of course, we've discussed in the past that if you go back to the ancient Hebrew, what that means in context is "Thou shalt not murder," which means kill unjustly. So the commandment given to the Jews was, "Thou shalt not kill without a just cause or without something that's justifiable to kill because of." So one of the ways of understanding that context in a modern society would be, hey, if somebody breaks into your house and threatens your family, you have no choice sometimes but to shoot them. But outside of a situation like that, you would have no reason to shoot them. And so that's not the example given in the Bible, but that's one way for us to relate to the intention of the one giving the commandment. So it is true that that was not a new rule. Obviously, I mean, all of human history, people have frowned upon killing each other for, obvious reasons. But all of the Old Testament is a type and a shadow and an allegory. And so it depends on if we're speaking about just Abrahamic monotheism generally, or if we're speaking about Christianity, because Christianity re-examines the entire Old Testament through a spiritual lens and looks for the meaning of it rather than the historical account only. And so it causes you to re-examine the Ten Commandments, the hundreds of commandments the Levites had, the Jewish history, the travels, the wars, all of those things. You start to read for the sake of their spiritual symbolism rather than their literal sayings. And so it seems to me as though a person coming from that position is coming from a varied position. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at the scriptures from a very Jewish, Abrahamic perspective, whereas Christianity is a different spiritual lens through which to view that history.
You stick to subgroups and groups, and I like how you like to categorize it, but in this argument it kind of cripples you because, well, I mean, as far as Aiden is concerned, because he his bias won't let him see past the group and look at the equation behind it.
Well, it's a big subject, and that's one of the reasons that I often make the distinction when I'm doing these broadcasts between the gospel and the revelation, because the gospel was sent to the whole world, but the revelation was sent to the church, and those kind of things are not to be discussed with the world because there's nothing fruitful that's going to come from that. When you're speaking to people, not people of faith, they're not having these texts.
You're breaking up.
Purely academic.
Hey, you're breaking up. Can you go back? You broke up there. I didn't hear what you said.
Is this any better?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you now.
Okay, I apologize. I think the camera causes it to get worse. But what I was saying is, I'm of the opinion that a fruitful conversation with an unbeliever has to be based upon the gospel and not upon the revelation. I think a fruitful conversation of the revelation of Christ must be had between believers.
Then, but God, well, that makes it so hard to spread the gospel, though.
Well, not if you recognize the gospel as what I'm recognizing it as. The gospel is, in its simplest form, the recognition that humanity has a problem and that they are unable to resolve their own problem, and that the resolution that was needed for their problem happened at Calvary. That's the entirety of the gospel. The revelation are all the intricate details about how and why and all of those things. But until a person comes to a position of faith in the gospel, they can never appreciate the details of the revelation.
Brother Pike, did you guys say you wanted to do the Bible study about the Godhead?
Me and Aiden had mentioned that the other day with Faithful, and he was saying that he wouldn't mind if Mark Stoney got involved because Mark Stoney's a very educated Trinitarian, and I think
Yeah.
that Aiden feels like that he would balance out my position for the argument.
Yeah. Would you guys like to do that one day too?
Yeah, I love that subject. That's one of my favorite subjects, and I also love any opportunity to disprove the Trinity because it's a lie.
Okay. What type of on your you come on the show? Can I call it the Brother Pike Show?
I don't care what you call it. There's got to be better names out there than
The
that, though.
Whatever you like to call it.
birder.
Go ahead. That's I guess.
What
Birder
would Dustin
Pike.
like to call it?
I don't know. Buck around and find out.
It's probably not going to be that. Thank you for the suggestion.
Whatever name you want, you could call it whatever you want.
All right, we will call it "The Trinity's Definitely a Lie." You guys are wrong. Let's go.
Okay. Whatever you like.
Subtle. That's subtle.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in unbiased, so everybody feels welcome.
What about Christian Pike's Bible study?
I mean, that's technically what it will be.
Whatever you like to call it.
Yeah, anything's fine. It is an interesting subject. I've had a lot of questions on that subject, and our ministry does sort of focus on certain doctrinal aspects, and the Godhead is certainly one of them. I've done a lot of writing and teaching about it. I have another book that I'm about to start that deals with it. And so it's one of those subjects that I've spent more time and energy trying to understand. And I am of the rather controversial opinion that the Trinity, as it's understood by 90% of Christian denominations, is a fallacy and is a Catholic construct. And so I'm coming in from the minority position for sure. And I expect people to be, critical because I'm the one in the minority position.
I don't see anybody being super critical, to be honest with you. But the other end of the equation is because, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't speak on that because I haven't really seen anybody be critical with you in that respect.
Well, Mark is a very educated person. That's one of the reasons that Aiden wanted to bring him in, because this is something that he's done quite a bit of studying on. And Mark, as far as I understand it, is a pretty traditional Trinitarian. And so I was thinking that what Aiden had in mind was that I could come by with my scriptures and Mark could come by with his scriptures, and we could do a scripture by scripture analysis of the two interpretations of the Godhead, which would be a lot of fun. And I think that we would all enjoy that. I'm sure the audience would learn a lot from that for sure.
Bro.
That'd be fine. I mean, the truth is, Mark would be great. Aiden would be great because Aiden always has some really interesting out of the box questions to bring to the table that other people haven't thought of. And having 4 or 5 different people who have an interest in the topic would make the conversation that much better.
Brother Pike.
We wiped out polio.
Polio's got to go.
Brother Pike. Faithful said, why not call it Bible study hosted by Christian Pike?
That's fine. Or you could just call it Logan's Bible Study. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, whatever you like.
I was thinking DDP, the Trinity, Oneness Forever. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Call it whatever.
What about you, Dustin? What do you think?
I try not to.
Okay. Dustin, what if you turn on a brain and go into a black hole?
What?
Yeah, Dustin. Answer the man's question.
Say that again.
You turn into a brain and go into a black hole.
Well,
Want to see this dog?
I mean, that's an interesting scenario. I don't know, buddy. Probably Spaghettify end up being crushed by Titanic forces.
Yeah, that what Aiden said to you before. When you're a brain and you say you go into a black hole or something.
Why a brain?
Yeah.
Why not like
It
a
was
probe? Why not like some kind of very small digital probe that just records the information for as long as it can stay together?
yeah.
I
His
mean,
avatar was the brain.
even if you could record the information, it's not like it could broadcast it out beyond the horizon.
No, that's 100% correct. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
His
So
brain
yeah.
was the avatar. Well, avatar was his brain.
Yeah, if Avatar was his brain, then maybe.
Yeah. Dustin, could we call you
Yeah,
Uncle Buck?
you could, because I do have a niece.
Could we call you Uncle Buck and that your brother asks you to come babysit and you make a big giant pancake for them and you go bowling and all that stuff.
So I'm making pancakes at the bowling alley.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I
You
was
make a
thinking
giant,
also like
Why would I do
bowling
that?
alley, so I had the same thing.
you have a giant
Why would
pancake.
I do that? I'm over there like throwing a bowling ball with one hand, flipping a pancake with the other.
Inquiring minds want to know, Dustin.
But it's a giant
I don't
pancake.
know. A giant pancake. I mean, what are we talking about? 2 feet, 3 feet, 14
Big,
feet? What are we talking about?
We're looking at like 6
big
foot.
as big as in that movie, Uncle Buck movie he made.
A
That
sizable
giant
pancake.
pancake.
Sizable.
Yeah. Oh,
Extra.
brother Pike. Guys, what do you think of that movie Noah?
I didn't watch it. I saw a couple of like the scenes on YouTube or something, and it looked dumb to me.
Didn't they have giant rock monsters in it
Yeah, I
as
saw
the
the rock
nephew?
monsters. That seemed to be an interesting interpretation of something that wasn't even in that story. So that was neat.
Yeah. They should have Dustin in it.
Well, it's weird because they were supposed to be like the
Wait.
Nephilim, and in that
Yeah.
particular story, the Nephilim don't really play any role. So they were kind of like piling different parts of Genesis together into that movie.
Yeah. Well, if Ken Ham made it, it would be a lot better. You will have it where they're following people to the dinosaurs.
I mean, they had Russell Crowe. He's a good actor, but I mean, you can only do so much with the script. You know what I mean?
What do you think of that, Dustin?
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
The movie
I
Noah?
didn't see it.
It was like Noah, God Strikes Back or something.
What? What? You doing a Star Wars with Noah? What is going on here? The Death Star?
Noah, dude.
That's what caused the flood. It was the Death Star.
It was, it might have been. If you go off the theology of that movie, it could have been any number of things, including rock transformers or whatever. I do remember reading, thou
Oh,
shalt not, the rock transformers. So
Yeah, it kind of looked like. You ever seen that movie? Uh, another ending story.
I saw it when I was a kid. It was very
never ending
strange.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh, this
guess that's
dog's trying
the
to talk to y'all. Hold on.
whole brother Pike. I think that's the origin story for the rock guy.
It could be that. It could be that. It could also be that the people who wrote that movie were on LSD.
Well, you ever
I
seen
mean,
Moses?
What'd you say?
You ever seen Moses, Gods and Kings?
I don't know. Maybe when I was a kid. I don't. Is that one of those cartoons?
No, it's a live action movie they made with the guy from Batman.
What?
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, really?
No, not Michael
You
Keaton.
got
Christopher Bell.
Christian.
Christopher Bell.
What?
Christian Bell. Yep. They made that not too long ago.
That's
Put
why. Is that like
put
in
a
fashion
link to
right
it
now?
in the.
Like,
There's got to be
yeah,
better places to get your biblical history from than Hollywood. I have to be honest with you.
I forgot the guy that got to play the Pharaoh. I think he was I forgot. I seen him in other movies. But what do you think of that?
I didn't see
Aiden?
that obviously because I didn't even know it existed. But I can't imagine that it was any good. People don't really care about what's true. I was talking to my wife about this last night. People don't really care about what's true. They just kind of care about what they want to be true, and they sort of reinterpret all data in the light of what they prefer. So I think Hollywood just kind of follows the trend of humanity and just putting out there the story that they wish it was versus the one that it actually was.
What do you think of that, Dustin?
I mean, Hollywood's not new in that respect. We've had opera, we've had uh, concerts, we've had all kinds of different music kind of used to distract us from the reality. Mankind has had a very long history of trying to change its perspective, either through chemical or through some kind of physical or religious experience.
You serious?
I love the way Logan says
What?
stuff. Like, are you
serious?
serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. What do you mean?
Um, Here, I'm linking it in the description. Oh, Big Bad
Nice.
Mama said the Egyptians and the turban Book of the Dead are real. Nam
The
nam.
Tibetan, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Well, that's the reason he's saying that is because the other day we were all talking about the Necronomicon and all that kind of stuff, and so he was saying that the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead are actual historical books, which they are.
Have you ever read that, Dustin?
I've read excerpts about him in the book. There's certain things that are known about the Book of the Dead and the Book of Life from the Egyptians. Some of the spells and incantations, and I mean, this is speculation, but if I remember correctly, they did have a way of generating electricity, and that was diagrammed in some of their uh, sketchings in some of their books.
Oh, Big Bad Mama's back. Hey,
Hi,
We
greetings
missed
and
you.
salutations.
good to see you guys.
Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy Thanksgiving.
And happy Black Friday.
Yeah.
Black Friday, right? I've never even taken part in that in any way, so I
It's
don't
great. You
even
get to
really.
stand in line for a while.
Isn't it all online now? I
Well, a
guess.
lot of it is. A lot of it is, but they still do it. Like if you go to downtown, it's happening. They be
Jeez,
shopping.
Have you seen that movie, Moses, Gods and Kings?
are you talking to me?
Yeah.
No, I saw Noah,
Oh.
which I thought was pretty decent, except for the Nephilim were ridiculous. They
That's
should
what
have
I
just
said. The rock monsters.
they
Is that
just
the
should have left them out.
They should have
origin?
left them out because they weren't actually in it to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. They were portrayed as angels that were locked in rock bodies because they had gone against God. But
Just
as
like the
Christian
scripture
said, there
says.
was nothing about them in
The
that part
Bible.
of Genesis, I don't think.
Yeah. Is that the origin story for the never ending story rock guy?
Can you say that again,
You know the
please?
nether
Nephilim?
yeah, another ending story? Never
Oh,
ending story.
the never ending story?
You know that rock guy? Is that the origin story from?
That was a stone giant.
I'd
Oh,
like
Now
to take this.
that was a good movie.
Can I take this question?
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Dustin?
Um, I think that there's a lot of acid going around, and I'm not like getting any.
Dustin feels left out.
I do. I feel like you guys are like high on acid, and I'm not getting any.
Dustin, can you briefly state what, I know this is like a delicate topic or whatever, but can you briefly state your issue with the Necronomicon?
I don't have an issue with it. When I was a little kid, my grandma exposed me to it.
Okay. I mean, it was based on the Evil Dead books because there wasn't a real Necronomicon book.
Uh, there, there's a book that. So the Necronomicon is just the word that they call it now. There's every witch has their book of spells. Okay, right? Like, but that was how it was introduced to me. That was her book of spells. It was the Necronomicon.
And she called it that?
That was her title for it.
Okay. And what year approximately would that have been?
Oh God, when I was 4, I was 4, so I was born in '87.
Okay, so the 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, early '90s. We went out to Minnesota and we visited my grandmother. I learned a lot that summer.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I wonder where she got that because the title is from an H.P. Lovecraft, either a short story or a book where
Well, he
he wasn't
references it
actually
in a couple of the works. Yeah, it's like
he,
this thing that he made up for part of his mythology.
right. He totally made it up, and it wasn't until the Evil Dead like portrayed it as an actual book that people actually wrote their own Necronomicons. I guess there were a couple of them, but
So
that's interesting that
the
she
way it
called
was
it that.
explained, the way she explained it to me was that the reason that they have different names for this book is because of the different translations. All of these individual tribes, and believe it or not, they were female ran. So there was always
That's the first problem.
so there's a oligarchy, a monarchy, and then I forget what
Matriarchy,
the female one was. Matriarchy, right?
matriarchy.
There's always been a matriarchy. They've always had elaborate social networks, and they've always had. Okay, now this is where I got into a real controversial argument with Steven and a bunch of them. But I try to explain to them that Eve kept her own record, right? And eventually, what happened was that book ended up getting corrupted, and it ended up being filled with spells. And I mean, the devil has always had access to the back door of every woman's mind.
This guy's spitting straight facts right now.
Brother Pac.
I'm telling
So
you,
Eve had
this is
written
what I was taught.
Eve had written a book that was based on her experiences, and that book passed on through the female lineage, the matriarchy, and it was added to as time went on by more evil powers until it's what we have today.
Well, what we have today is not necessarily one book, but an amalgamation of different uh, folklore and superstition. There's a lot in there um, that kind of goes with a lot of it. It's hard to explain.
Yeah,
My
and only talk
grandmother
about it as much as
was
you want to. It's not, you know,
well,
I
okay,
don't.
so but I don't have a problem talking about it. It's not a big
Okay.
deal. The way I was taught was the reality is you have all these different factions, okay, and the ultimate goal is to make mankind bring destruction upon himself. All right, all these spells, all these incantations, the ultimate goal is complete chaos and anarchy. Okay, they don't have a goal. They just want to take what's there and destroy it.
And those powers today are not just female powers, right? I mean, there are people that there's
No,
anarchists
no.
all
Look,
over the place.
it, in the olden days, the only way to communicate with the spiritual realm, because that was how you got all of your esoteric knowledge, was to have an oracle, and an oracle had to be a female because the female is the stepping off point between life and death because that's where the babies come from. They're the
Sure.
closest to that. They're the closest uh, uh, living entity that steps in both realms without having to be dead.
Okay, so like the Oracle of Apollo at Delphi or something like that.
Correct. Right. That was how it was. That was the perversion. Okay. Right. God had intended woman to be man's helper, and the devil had a different plan.
So what happened to that book that your grandmother had?
She still has it.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. She didn't leave. She didn't let it leave her house. Like that's not how that worked. I got to study from it. I got to learn from it. But I didn't accept the initiation at the end where I could get my own copy.
Wow.
Oh, you sound kind of like. You ever heard that movie, Paranormal Activity, the Mark ones?
No.
I never saw those. I know it. I know what you're talking about, but never saw them.
It's like a spinoff or whatever. Where about these witches put marks on people. I'm not sure to become. I don't know. I forgot, but sounds a little bit like that. What do you think, Dudson?
Well, when a witch marks somebody, it's like a cattle branding.
Oh, well, I think they're trying to bring a demon into the earth as a antichrist guy. I'm not sure.
When you, Dustin, when you looked at that book, did it have drawings and like
Yes.
symbols, runes,
Yes.
or symbols, or?
Well, okay, so there's a sacred geometry, right? Like if you look at a lot of these logos, you're going to start to notice that they match up with a lot of the ancient symbolisms and a lot of the ancient hieroglyphs, right? These things are considered ruins, but they're considered ruins because of geometric
Geometry?
points that
Yeah.
yeah that relate the shape, right? So there's a science behind this. There's a whole math and a whole science behind it.
So it's kind of relating the physical world to the spiritual world in terms of the geometric points.
Well, okay, I'll go with the easiest one. Okay, the one that's going to be easiest for you to understand. The human body is designed like an 8. Okay,
Okay.
and uh, so and the concept of the 8 has the chakras aligned with the individual body, and the chakra that is the 8th chakra is considered the time chakra because that's where you store your memories. It's the highest
At the top of
chakra.
the
It's the
head,
one at
right?
the very exactly. Well, there's a spell called breaking the 8. Okay, and it's a time spell. It the number is usually associated with 4. Okay, right? And where does that time spell reside in? It resides in the stomach, where you are considered. That's the stepping off point between life and death, because that was where the umbilical cord connected to your mother, and that is also where life comes from. Okay,
Okay.
so that is where, in time, you can be considered a possession, and that is the chakra where you are possessed from. They call
Oh,
that
okay.
breaking the
Okay.
8.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I think I drove
Right? That's a
Christian
sacred
away with this
geometry.
talk. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. I think I drove Christian away with this topic. He's probably not, he probably doesn't want to talk about witchcraft and stuff, but I hope he comes back and we can change the topic.
I didn't want him to leave.
Thank you, Dustin. That was interesting.
I asked him where he
Yeah,
go.
he's probably busy. He's been in and out because he's driving and he's got family stuff too.
Oh, okay. But he's Brother Pac. I can imagine him as an old cowboy going around taking out all the bad guys. It's Brother Pac.
You should Ghost, let Christian on your show sometime to also discuss his grandfather, who was a very interesting
Yeah,
religious figure.
he talked about having a Bible study thing on the show
Okay.
next week. He can.
Okay. Yeah, he had a very interesting and influential grandfather. You can look him up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his name was. If it was, yeah, not. I don't want to say his name. He was a Pike, but
Oh, is it
he had
grandfather
a whole big congregation, almost like yeah. I think they all lived together too, but if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's a very interesting story.
Yeah, he come on. He could come on and talk about it if he wants.
Well,
And,
he's not around anymore.
yeah, and he can. He's talked about doing a Bible study, and there's other time he talked
Yeah.
about doing a show with Aiden and Mark Stoney about the Trinity.
Oh, that'd be cool. Okay.
I
Oh,
think that's him right now. Did I just hear that?
I think that he messaged me and said I had to hop back off. I'm trying to be in and out of comments. Is that what he said? Oh, Big Bad Mama.
Yeah.
Are you going to have a Facebook page soon?
I'll let you know.
But no, that's kind of the thing though, Big Bad Mama. That's why I have the faith that I do. Okay, because I mean, you got to understand, there's not a lot of reason for these things that are completely non-scientific, but only flights of fancy and based on math, right? Unless someone had a esoterical purpose for it.
Right.
I mean, you
I
know,
mean,
like writing, calligraphy, that makes sense. You can sit down and you make proofs on a piece of paper where two people can understand each other. But these
right.
things, they're hidden in secret.
Oh, Dustin.
But how much of it is just purely superstition and how much of it is actually manifested in the physical world would be my
Okay,
question.
so
And
here's the thing, okay? When you say superstition, that's something that we control, right? As say those people who are in the know. If we want you to have a certain superstition, or if there's a certain prospect out there amongst the common people, it's because it benefits the group as a whole. It, you're making the mistake of thinking that these people are educated. If somebody believes something that I'm telling them, it's because they're stupid.
okay. So you're
Okay,
saying it's set up that way in order to control people.
not control people. No, the idea of having control, like, okay, so there's three rules when you're casting a spell: never get personal, never jump to a conclusion, and there is no bigger plan. That's
Okay.
it, right? The whole thing is meant to have man make all the decisions to bring down God's wrath upon themselves. And anything I
I
can
see.
tell you to make you make decisions that are not in your best interest is the best thing for me to tell you in the moment.
And it's all man oriented as opposed to coming from any supernatural power, or I
No,
guess,
well, okay, see, now I have seen things, Big Bad Mama, and I'm not making any of this up. I have seen things
Right.
that defy explanation.
Here, Big Bad Mama.
Right.
Okay,
Ghost.
I do
That's
not.
George Leon Pike. Yes. We'll talk to Christian about him next time we maybe
Oh, sorry.
go on. Thank you, Ghost. Go on,
Continue.
Dustin.
I have seen things that defy explanation. Okay,
Right.
there are people who know things that, I mean, like, it would just be a story if I told you. It is that unbelievable.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so like, I'm not coming at this like I'm trying to give you a bunch of hooey, okay? Because I definitely could just lob a bunch of hooey at you. I'm trying to stay just this side of
Your
scientific.
experience. Yeah, your experience.
Yeah, because like I look now, I'm not saying that hallucinogenics couldn't have been to blame, okay? But I'm also not saying that if hallucinogenics were to blame, then there was a very interesting correlation between what I was seeing and what everybody else was seeing, and how everybody else explained their experience as well.
I see. Okay.
So, right? So, like,
Right.
hallucination's one thing, but when two people share the same hallucination, now there's something else going on.
It's a mass hallucination, which can either, there's a couple different scenarios. It could be that they're sharing the same elements of the hallucination and that it is a hallucination, or that it's not a hallucination and they're both sharing a real experience.
I mean, okay, but the thing about it is the hallucination's not necessarily the issue so much as I don't know how to explain it. So, okay, I'll give you my experience. All right, and this is not ho hokum. I was with my grandmother. We went into a tent in the back room, or in the back of the place. She had the tent set up. There was some kind of salvia burning. She showed me a mirror, and I left my body. Okay, like I was outside of myself. I went somewhere in the mirror, and there was this man there. He had no face, and he showed me things. I wasn't told anything, I was shown.
Hmm.
So what he wanted me to do was strike deals with people. Okay, all right. I
Right.
was to be a jouster.
A
I
jouster in
was to.
terms of, oh, I'm sorry.
So, like, back in the day, a jouster was a man who rode a horse and stabbed the other person. But the thing about it was that was just the show. That was the pompous and circumstance. The real thing behind it was the blood creed and the rights that were bestowed upon the winner. And these things were hashed out, kind of like you have today, uh, bargaining,
Okay.
collective bargaining. Right? That was the whole
Right.
thing. The contest was who determined who won the contract.
Yeah, there was
Right?
more of
Now
an outcome
nowadays,
than just who won the joust. I mean, there was more of a consequence.
right. Nowadays it's a little different. They went a different way about it. But the whole thing is that you have to sacrifice in order to live comfortably, right? Or if you want something specific, then something specific is demanded of you.
Okay.
We see examples of it all over the place. People that are living a very luxurious life but have to go through rituals of severe and utter humiliation.
So, is there such a thing as black magic and white magic?
Like in what respect?
Well, isn't black magic supposedly from some sort of an evil power, whether it be a demon or
You
um,
can, okay, so if you have a high enough blood level, okay, if you so like there are 33rd degree Masons that can summon demons that will fulfill their will. Okay, right? So like something bad happens to people and it's inexplicable. That's generally something that happens because of either a sacrifice due to a contract or someone with a high enough blood level uh, was commanding demons to do his will.
Okay.
Now, that's not every scenario. That's not every situation. Sometimes it's just people being stupid. That happens.
Is there magic coming from the other side where it's an angel derived or God derived
No,
magic?
no. Angels don't listen to men. Only demons do. Only fallen angels will listen to man. And the only reason they listen to man is because the lineage of Adam, because of the bloodline. And if your bloodline is pure, because there was an intermingling of demon and man, right? So the bloodline was polluted.
Okay. I mean, it almost sounds like the Illuminati in a certain respect, what you're talking about. And I guess there's
To a degree.
there's the thought that, the leading powers on the planet are not even earthly people, but aliens, and specifically, they're called out as reptilian
Yeah,
aliens by certain
lizard
people.
people.
But of course,
Well,
I don't believe
so
that myself, but I do know about that theory, or not
there
even a
are,
theory, but a hypothesis.
have you seen, like, there are some people who will grow into like scale skin, right? And clubbed feet. It's not unheard of for people to have like deformity from birth to kind of
Yeah,
make them look like they're reptilian.
yeah. Here's birth defects where people born with scales, I think.
They
Something
do.
that
They have all kinds of those. So like it's kind of understandable where in the back of the human psyche they kind of think that there's a reptilian race because there are some birth defects based
Well,
on
I heard
environmental sub.
some people think that Justin Bieber was one of them.
Well, I can.
Well, I always heard like
I mean,
Queen
they
Elizabeth,
might be
and
onto something there. I don't know,
yeah,
but
they might be onto something there. But I always interpreted that as, well, we do have in our brains what's called the reptilian brainstem, which means, from an evolutionary perspective, that we have our brain has developed from that same type of brainstem that we do share with reptiles. And of course, we've developed a cortex and a neocortex on top of that as mammals and apes. So there's a certain part of me, I do believe that there's a reptilian part of us. I just don't. It's different than what you're saying, but I just wanted to add that.
I'm just saying, like psychologically speaking, it makes sense that because in the back of our mind we think of dinosaurs, right? And then in the other back of our mind we see birth defects and people that are born that are othered. And I mean, we've had an entire generation of people that made money off of what was known as the freak show in the clown circus.
Right.
So it's there the, when
Of
we
course,
take a look at the
we would call
damage.
those genetic defects in people, and oftentimes they're passed through generations, and maybe they might not manifest in one generation. Like there's the hairy people that were in the sideshows, Lionel the lion-faced man, or Jojo the dog-faced boy, and those
Oh,
were two
could
famous
you
hairy
could,
people.
could you imagine being born like that in like an Aztecian village?
It would be
Like, do you think
horrible.
you'd make
Yeah.
it? Yeah,
oh,
I don't think you'd make it very long.
You mean
Big Red.
where? Where?
Aztec.
in an
Oh no,
Aztecian village,
you'd
you
be
wouldn't
you'd
make
be
it very long.
sacrificed as a child, as a baby, probably.
Uh,
Um,
Right.
Big
some
Bad
of
Mom.
those, sometimes those side shows though, where they would exploit those people, but some of those people made a lot of money at the same time.
Big Bad Mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did.
You ever heard of this case? This kid in uh India, born with a tail. They see him as the
I've seen I've
reincarnation of the monkey
I've
god.
seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
And
I don't
her,
know if his tail had actual bones in it or not. I'd have to look at it. Like a cat's tail has, it's like an extension of your vertebrae, basically.
and here's another one. Like I think in Mexico, where these guys had. I asked Ken Hovo about this before, where they had this defect where their face is covered in hair. They said it
I
was.
saw those. There's two brothers, right? And they were in the circus and they did like trapeze even and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
The Wolf brothers, I think they were called.
Yeah. I
I don't know
asked
if they're
Ken
still
Hovo.
around or not, but
Yeah, I asked Ken Hovo about them before.
what did he say?
I asked him. People said they have a gene from our common ancestors that got turned on that caused them to have that. I asked him about it. I forgot what he said. He said that no, we all have to have something in common where we couldn't eat other species.
Huh.
He said something like that. I forgot about
Hmm.
Look, we've seen this many, many times where you take a species of something and you put it into an area where it's not native to, and we'll see significant change to that individual over successive generations. Right? That's not evolution. That's adaptation. And
Well, Dustin, to be fair, that is microevolution, but creationists have chosen to hijack that term adaptation instead of, because they don't want to use the term microevolution. So let's be fair that part of microevolution, according to science, is adaptation. So there's not a separate process called adaptation from microevolution and mutation. It's
well,
natural
then
selection, basically. And even somebody like Kent Hovind believes in natural selection. He just puts limits on it so that it doesn't because he doesn't want to agree that there's species to species evolution. So he'll accept microevolution. But it kind of sounds like you do, from a scientist perspective, it sounds like you do accept some level of what you would call adaptation.
I have to accept that there is definitely change between successive generations. Okay, but the issue comes when we say that any one successive generation was better survived than the one previous. Because in all honesty, we get to a certain point where that data doesn't hold out anymore, either from lack of observation or just severe failure of experimental data processing.
But would you agree that it takes a lot of generations to see changes manifest in terms of like a physical change to um, a species? So that you wouldn't see
Uh
a massive, you wouldn't just put say a short-furred dog or short-furred cat in the Arctic, and then, which it would probably die, but um, it wouldn't just take one generation for it to grow a whole bunch of fur and be able to survive in the tundra, for example.
no, you wouldn't be able to see a successive generation change in like one generation, but that's not to say that, say, a short-furred animal was impregnated, right, and just before it died gave birth to a uh, animal with a mutation by no successive exposure, but just by sure random mutation that one of those animals had long fur, but it still wouldn't survive considering that it's a puppy that it has no way of getting its own nourishment.
Right, but if they were able to find some sort of a shelter and be able to breed and find food, and say the weather was changing, and it was getting colder, the climate was shifting, you could get the fur on that species getting longer and keeping the animal warmer over successive generations to where it was kind of keeping pace with the changes in the environment.
If it had some kind of other advantage that would permit it to extend its life past expiration due to environmental issues, then yeah. But I mean, you're talking about some kind of other experience from a mental capacity that would have both the foresight and the knowledge to produce that kind of an environment.
Well, I'm just saying nature produces that environment that it's, all of a sudden the weather's changing in a certain area, and the dogs that are surviving, I'm using dogs, even though that's a bad example. Let's use cats, because dogs were created through artificial selection. But if we use cats, then if the weather's getting colder, then the kittens and cats that are going to survive are going to be the longer furred cats, because the other ones are going to freeze to death and not be able to survive. And so the ones that pass on their genes to the next generation and the next generation are going to be the cats that survive, which are the ones that can have the longer fur, or, maybe it's something to do with their teeth, or, any number of. My point is, what you're calling adaptation is what scientists have called natural selection for a long time.
Okay, if you want to get say whoever got there first, I mean, we could go down that road, but I think a more successive and direct argument is, if there's no need for the word adaptation, then why is it a scientific term that is thrown around the table, not just by uh, uh, theistic scientists, but atheistic scientists as well?
Well, adaptation is part of natural selection, but you also have mutation in there as well, which I think you even would accept that as happening. So, I just don't think that it's
but that's kind of a fluke, because mutations tend to be random, and the
yes,
advantage derived from them are like superficial unless the environment just so happens to be the right one
right,
for the mutation.
right.
So I mean, like again, you have to invoke some kind of either foresight or I don't even know, maybe planning, because like how would you account for that? Like
Well,
you wouldn't be able
as
to,
you said, the mutation. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But yeah, well, as you said, the mutation is random, but the thing that what selects that mutation in a particular environment is not random. So when people say, "Oh, evolutionists are basically saying everything is random with evolution," that's just an untruth. Mutation's really the only thing that can be considered random, but that mutation, as you just pointed out, has to fit within whatever environment or changes in the environment that you're getting. in order for that organism or that group of organisms. It's always about populations surviving, not individuals, but it's about populations of organisms. Anyway, we're going to have to talk about this later because I do have to get going.
All right, buddy. I always do enjoy our conversations. They do
Yeah,
touch on
thank
a
you.
lot of subjects, and
That was really good. Thank you. And I really appreciate you sharing your story about your grandmother.
No.
And thank you, Gangster,
You're
and
welcome.
good job again.
Oh,
as
thank you. And
host.
thank you for coming on.
Sure. I'll be on the next one if I can. You guys have a great day.
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.
And thank you, Dustin.
hey, Gangster, I think I'm gonna hop off too. I'm gonna make something to eat.
Okay, I'm going to end the show. Thank you for coming on, and thank you all.
Much love.
Much love. Bye.